Welcome back, everybody. This is Mark 157 of Geeks Chasing Squirrels Across the Multiverse. Sorry, we're a little late getting started. There was a train passing by, and I didn't want that to ruin this awesome intro. Could have made me cry, but you get one good cry per quest, right? That's the rule.
One good one.
One good cry per quest. So. You hear my co-host, Sarah. What's up?
Hi, fellas. What's going on? Another long week in the books.
Christmas,
it's almost Christmas. Countdown has begun. I'm kind of excited for my kids. We're starting to put presents on the tree. My daughter's like wigging out because she's like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many presents." My son looks at it like he's ready to rip paper. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
See, I do the opposite. I don't put a single present out until they've gone to sleep on Christmas Eve. Like just to be that, like I'll put other not theirs though. I'll put like other families' presents stuff. I won't put a single one of their presents out.
It's been a tough year, kiddos. Tough year.
Yeah. Like, well, I think it's funny how Christmas changes from your thoughts growing up and your thoughts like as an adult. I'm not saying it's not joyous as an adult. It's just a different kind of,
Honestly, I mean, it's sometimes Christmas is stressful. I mean, it's
not sometimes. It's always stressful. It's always stressful. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just there is a certain
Christmas.
Kind of joy.
I don't have Star Wars. I want a Star Wars movie. Today is December 16th. December 17th, I think, was when like Force Awakens came out. So, we're going to start coming up on anniversaries of like those movies. Mm-hmm. I haven't had a Star Wars movie in theaters in too long.
Yeah, but you don't want to rush them. Give them 7-8 years. Let them put something really, really good together.
Yeah.
Really, really good. And then I'd rather wait for the really good stuff. All right, so we got a few things to talk about this week. Not really too many shows. Doom Patrol and Willow. We got a little news to cover, and then we're going to talk about Game of Thrones, the final season. Just kind of a whole.
Did you finish it this time?
Oh, I finished it.
Okay, because I didn't want to text. I didn't want to ask any questions.
I haven't pressure and be like anything to you about it.
Well, that's what
got a whole week.
He's got that.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to have some Cody and Jay Stubbs and White Chocolate Express are going to jump on here in a little while, but we'll go ahead and get started. Let's knock Willow out of the way. That was the most recent show that I watched. So it's the most fresh in my mind, and that was just a couple hours ago. I wasn't going to pay that much attention to it really because I just hadn't really been digging the show. I sat it down. I started making dinner. I found myself more drawn to it. Sarah, you guys said you had some interesting thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay. Now, it's like I had to remind myself to watch this. And obviously, and actually had to remind myself because literally I just watched it. I turned it on probably like 10 minutes to 8. So it's literally fresh. This is the one episode where I'm like, is it finally coming together? I mean, because I was just like, oh, I was actually enthralled on this one, believe it or not. But I don't know, maybe it's just because they're pulling from the original story and they're finally bringing it in, so it's starting to make a little bit more sense. Because I'm gonna tell you, last week I didn't watch the episode last week, but last week when I finally did watch it, it's like I was telling you guys, the arrogance of all these characters. I'm like, I want to like just smack all of them. I'm like, who the hell do you think you are? Oh, dude can't know about this, but you're the only person that can. Really? Okay. But it just seems like this episode, I don't know if it's almost like shit got real. I mean, maybe it just felt like it was starting to get a little bit more real. I don't know. There's just some. What do you think, Greg?
Well, let me hear Ross's thoughts. Then I'll put something out there. What do you think, Ross?
I wanted to, I don't know if you heard me before the show started. I said Willow, more like Wallow. I'm glad that they are bringing in the bits and pieces of the movie, not even like beating around the bush. They're chopping scenes together. Like it's that part is cool and is well done. However, these damn characters make me want to gouge. They make me want to pull my eyeballs out and stuff them in my ears so I don't have to listen to them complain. Because I watched it like first thing this morning. I kind of got into it for like 5 minutes, and then I started finding myself goofing off on my phone, and I was just like, man, are they ever going to shut up? I don't know.
One character in particular, but yes.
Yes. Yeah, well, two of them. I mean, like, let's talk about, the cat fight that should just happen, I mean, these two just need to beat the shit out of each other. It's getting so old. I still love Borman. I think he makes this show.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this about Borman. Is it just me, or is if you kind of like not if you're not really paying attention, I'm like, is that Jack Sparrow? Because he's got a very Johnny Depp-esque kind of.
A little bit, yeah.
With
I don't know. Maybe it was just more apparent
blood
in this
alcohol
one
content?
because he just kind of like. I don't know. That's just one thing that kind of like hit me. I'm like, this seems like a character I've seen before.
Maybe a little watered down. Not watered down saying he's not doing a good job, but just not as.
But it's like that little bit of. It's just like a little essence.
Yeah.
I like his brand of humor a little bit better. I mean, he does, like I said, lower blood alcohol content. Doesn't seem like he's sloshed the whole entire time trying to have a conversation. But it's the the quips from him are really funny. I like them, and I don't think that they are show appropriate. Don't get me wrong, but there's so much in this show that doesn't feel like it is ingrained deep enough in the universe, and not just like the Willow universe, like the time frame and the fantasy and what they are trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
You called it Disney Game of Thrones or whatever you called it last week. You're not wrong. I mean, you're not too far off. It's Disney a lot of things. The problem is I think it's a little too much Disney than anything else.
Yeah. And, like I said, I was watching this episode and I haven't really been liking this show. It's not something that I absolutely hate, but I just haven't really been liking this show, the direction they've been going. And I feel like after watching this episode, I kind of pinpointed some of the things that may have been wrong. Not all of them, but one of the things that may have been wrong is they have this huge universe they're trying to portray, but I don't know anything about it. Like, I don't know anything about the history or the characters or the reasoning they're doing this or the rules or anything about this universe. And now we're so far into this that we're into a quest where somebody's already been captured and I don't know what's going on. This episode did do a better job of really laying out that bag of snakes a little bit, if you could say. Like, it explained some things. It gave reason. It gave background. When somebody told a story in this episode, somebody didn't tell them to shut up and you didn't get to hear the story. Like, you actually got to hear what's going on. So for me, of the episodes, this has been the best one so far. And if it's on an upward trajectory after this episode for me. I'm not saying that it's like turned around and it's a great show, but they're heading in the right direction now. Now I have purpose for the characters. I have an idea or a couple of ideas of where it's going, and I have background and knowledge of this universe they're trying to portray as a huge universe that I need more meat on the bone. And I feel like this episode gave me that.
This is the halfway point.
Okay. It felt like a finale almost, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, sad thing is, like, if this were a finale, man, like, the season has not been that great. So
Agreed. Yeah, it wasn't enough to say the season was really great. I agree. But like I said, I just feel like at the end of this episode, I was more excited about the future of this show than I was after I've watched any other episode of this show. Yeah. So, but let's talk about the episode a little bit itself. So there's some questions I have, and of course some things aren't going to be answered, but they gave us a little bit of background knowledge. So now we know about this. Is it the 6 they're talking about?
Was it the blood of the 6 or the
blood of the 6?
Yeah.
And that's where Bravmorda, is that her name? That's where she pledged her allegiance to. Now, does that mean there are 5 others that have done the same? Did they mention that? Or is this something that maybe is just kind of left in the background?
I mean, deduction would tell me that there are 5 others.
Yeah. I mean, excuse me. That was one thing that they didn't place in, or at least I missed it if they did say anything about it.
I don't think they really focused on it. I don't think it was like a, the other 5 are majorly important. They were just centering on the fact that it's a thing. Bravmorda was one of the 6, and since her blood went to her daughter and is now in Kit, she is by lineage one of the 6. So now, mathematically speaking, there are more than 6 now, but the original 6,
I just wonder if we'll ever get anything like that. I guess you could do a continuation of the story. Of course, I don't know where the story's going, so it could be at the end of this.
Yeah, I think that's what I don't like about it, is that they haven't given me that yet. I mean, it turned into a snatch and grab right off the bat. So the brother was gone, and then it's been nothing but, moan fest trying to
whiny, arrogant shit.
Yeah, and I'm normally I have the patience to sit back. I mean, just watch the Peripheral, like you need patience with that show to sit back and like see where that story unfolds. And even when you get to the end, you're like, wait a second, hold on. This show, I'm just like, all right, maybe because it feels too Disney and I don't feel like waiting too long. It's like, I'm not going to lie. It reminds me of the Disney preteen shows, I like it just has that feel to it.
Might as well be watching Descendants.
Yeah, like
I've had to watch a lot of Descendants. Like, got two girls. I've had to watch a lot of Descendants. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't have a full direction on where they're going. But at least this episode gave me kind of, like I said, it gave me a little more about the universe. There's still one thing that bothered me was when they were talking about bringing back. Okay, so what's the guy's name? The prince's name, or that's going to be married to Kat?
Graydon.
Yeah. Okay. He gets infected with the same disease that old boy has that died last episode, right? Okay, so he's turning into this possessed demon, and they've got to make the decision whether they're going to kill him or not. I do like the conversation they have about, have you ever had to kill somebody that's not trying to kill you type thing? Because, yeah, that's probably pretty hard to do.
It's real talk.
Yeah, it's some real talk. But they're trying to. I guess they want to get Kat to go away because she's bothering them. So they tell her to go get this pickled possum bladder, something like that. Go find it. And they're like, we can't do it without all the ingredients. But as soon as she leaves, they start the process anyway. And then
I think it was like steps. I think it was steps. I think they started like this one thing, and then they needed this to complete this other, because it was like a ritual.
But if that's the case, then they sent her off to find this, not knowing if she would A, find it, or B, come back.
Yeah.
So either way, it's kind of like, well, what are you guys doing? I would make sure I had all the ingredients before I started baking the cake.
Well, I don't want to completely pick it apart, but I'm going to have to. They showed up to this castle, found the recipe book to begin with. All of a sudden, were able to, find the exact recipe they needed to fix the problem. And then we just went shopping in Bravmorda's old,
pantry,
boutique sanctuary. Yeah. I mean, like, it was. I didn't like it.
Well, I will say I liked it more so than I liked the other ones, because it's because I, from the very beginning, I feel like you're just thrown into it. Like, you're supposed to know what's going on. And obviously we're like, I don't know what's going on right now. And it's just, I think there's just so many assumptions that you're supposed to make. And then of course, like you said, the characters, some of them are just not very well liked. I mean, but maybe that's I don't know. Maybe Kit, they're trying to bring in her dad's personality, Kilmer's character, because I just don't remember him. I mean, I remember him being, kind of, he had a way about him, like this humor, and was kind of snarky and that kind of thing. But I just don't remember him being like super annoying.
He was Jack Sparrow-y,
Yeah, I mean, he was just kind of like
kind of Maverick Top Gunny.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So I'm like, maybe they're trying to inject that into it. I mean, I don't know. I can't figure it out, but it's just like
it grounded you back in Willow, and that you're right. I mean, like that. The problem is that all that kind of fell to the wayside for me because of the acting of mainly Kit and Laura. The two of them, and also I'm not a big fan of the Graydon character. I don't like the tone they're trying to give him. I mean, they did give him a dark backstory if what we saw was true.
Yeah, he threw his brother from the tree or wherever and killed his brother? Is that what I'm to believe?
It seemed like he was possessed already, and he had that massive scar that it looked like a giant snowflake on his stomach.
Do you reckon that was like maybe from like an exorcism or something?
It's got to be something like that.
Well, in the world of magic, so God only knows what happened.
Yeah, but it's magic like an Energizer battery. or a cell phone battery. You got to recharge it after you use it once.
But the thing about it, he knows a lot about magic too.
He does. Like they have definitely implied that he knows way more than he should. We've made the joke right off the bat of him having that dialogue with the wall, reading it and not shutting up. And so, he's got some history in this somewhere, somehow, some way.
And And that's why I'm wondering: are they setting him up for something, for something else, or am I just trying to like give his character purpose? Maybe I'm just trying to give his character purpose.
You're trying to will a story into existence is what you're trying to do, and that's dangerous. Like I don't like that about a show.
Yeah. Well, it's dangerous whenever you use as
expectations. Damn it!
Yeah,
Don't do it.
So. When you make assumptions, like if you watch a show, like Greg, you explained it talking about Game of Thrones last week. If you watch a show like Game of Thrones and it makes you think all of these things, like it's making you really get into that universe. Whereas with like that's good. With Willow, it's like you're trying to will the story. It's not
trying
that
to write
you don't.
It's going.
Yeah, and that's a big problem, especially if we're about to get another writer's strike. That's a big problem.
Mm. Well, you don't think they have all this written already?
Oh no, I think the problem is they have it written. Last week I said I think editing is a major problem. Writing tends to be part of that problem too.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It still hasn't won me over. I'm hoping that it continues to go in an upward trajectory. Trying to think if there's any scenes that really. I guess one thing you could mention is that, like, did they show that they even mentioned that Willow didn't really defeat Morta before? It was just her own arrogance. Like, so maybe he's not powerful enough by himself. Which it's funny that he always continually says he's not powerful enough by himself, but he keeps sending away old girl.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I can't do this alone. And they get in an argument. He's like, well, get out of here. I'm like, well, you just said you can't do it alone.
Well, see, that's where the arrogance comes in too, because I'm like, Willow should be by this time have a hell of a lot more wisdom. That's what I feel. But I'm not getting it from his character. I feel like it's the same guy. It's just he's older because he was still in that learning. I don't know. It's been an eon since I've seen the movie, but when they showed that cutscene or whatnot with the baby disappearing, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
That was when I remember that. And I was just like, okay, that's kind of crazy. But I don't know. I just don't. It just seems like by now he should have more. Now, when he has, done whatever he's done with his staff, and you do see this power, I'm like, all right, okay, I see that. All right, you got a little trick. You got some tricks hidden somewhere. But I just feel like he should be more. I don't know, further along than he is.
Yeah. Once again, you're coming in with preconceived notions of what you think a wizard truly is. I know.
It's true. I mean, yeah.
But that's the way he presents himself, though. So, I mean, I can't help but think that.
And that's the issue is, like I said, we have this huge time jump in this universe, which you're allowed to have in a universe this big. But if you don't have any knowledge of it, of like what happened in between that universe, what the world was like what this means, then it really is difficult to pick up on this and grasp on a storyline. I think that there's a thread there, a few of them, but it's difficult to connect all the dots right now. Maybe it'll come. They'll spread a little more light on everything in the last 4 episodes. Who knows? I know. It's just like I said.
It's interesting.
Game of Thrones.
Laura, now it looks like Laura. She's coming into something.
Is she gonna be evil?
I don't know. Did you notice the strand of hair? She pulled a rogue.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't.
Did you notice that? Because she's got the blonde, but now she has this orange. It's a darker lock.
I did not notice that. I kind of started to really just, like I said, screw around on my phone when I was watching it.
I don't know if it was weird because I was trying to figure out, okay, she just automatically knew just to suck out whatever entity was there, and it just passed all, and everything was just all sunshine and roses then. I'm just like, okay. But now she's got this, I guess she saw his truth or whatever it was. And now she's all wigged out. She's kind of looking.
Oh, rightfully so. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
Something that's pretty dark to see.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Well, let's talk about the final scene then. At least, I guess I'm assuming this is her brother, and it looks like wakes up somewhere and has no idea where he is, which is weird because I feel like there's been some time passed. I don't know the story of how he would just be waking up there, but where he wakes up, it's like an abandoned city. Almost, or
it's the
covered in ash, though.
What they call it, the Immortus, or what? No, I'm gonna mix up shows now. The Immortal City, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, is that the city they're trying to make it to?
Yeah, because I think that's where that's where they said that he was going to be taken, or where he was going, and so that seemed like not to mention, it looked very grand. I think that
Mm-hmm.
I love the outro. Once again, another
Mm-hmm.
week with a popular song. I'm assuming by the same artist, but Black Hole Sun. As soon as they started playing it, I'm like, ooh.
I know, right? I'm thinking, oh,
Yeah, I could live with that one. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with it. It was an interesting way to end the I guess mid-season finale. Let's not even call it that. It's just the middle of the season.
Yep.
Like I said, it just felt like a finale. I don't know why, but interesting way to end that. I guess I feel like now I'm used to shows taking a break after a few episodes and then coming back a few months later, and then yeah, so this one is not. However, Disney's not following that model. At least not with this. Is there anything else y'all want to say about Willow?
They did play homage to the age-old trick at the very beginning when they were trying to walk into the Nockmaar. They were doing the old leaning forward and like acting like it was very windy and they were struggling to get in. And I was like, oh, this is very it's like 70s and 80s. They blow the giant fan and rain at you, and all of a sudden they're
well,
struggling.
they had rain too, because I mean, obviously it can't get it's got to be ominous with the rain.
It has to
be ominous otherwise. And you got to have a good cry.
10 says what's up to everybody.
What's going on, 10?
Sarah, Greg, and Ross, you fine ass sexy bastard.
I think Ross has a fan.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Well, got one.
There you go. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up Willow then. I'm just going to continue the coverage of this. Oh, I will go ahead and say we're not going to be on next week. Very close to Christmas. I might be down for a few days, having surgery on Friday. So we're going to take a break next week. Be back the week after that. That'll actually be the day before New Year's Eve, the 30th of January.
The eve of the eve.
The eve of the eve. So I figure that when we come back, we'll have a couple shows to talk about, and we can also maybe do like a end of the year review of stuff we've watched, favorite television shows, favorite movies, worst television shows, worst movies.
I can't remember back.
Yeah, it'll take a minute to make the list, but I mean, I had to think about what was made
you
this year.
To. All the emails are going to just come plummeting towards you right now. If you subscribe to anything, it's going to be like, end of the year, best thing to do. What'd you see? What'd you watch?
That's true. That is true. But yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. But next week, like I said, we're probably not going to be here. So just plan on that. Well, let's go ahead and hop into Doom Patrol. What are we on? Episode 3 this week?
Yep. Nostalgia Patrol.
Yeah, man. Ross, you're the Doom Patrol guy. Let's get us going.
They said Nostalgia Patrol. I thought they were going to take like a little bit of a jump back or something, but it kind of worked out in the episode. Once again, they're doing this season to where they're trying to show that yet again the team is still trying to struggle to come together. They seem to be very doom and gloom. So I don't know where we had no butts. But we had plenty of talks about butts. What we did have, or at least one character had, was one hell of a good time.
Yeah.
I've never done a puzzle, and
want that puzzle?
That good of a time.
Found those actions very puzzling at the same moment. Jane definitely had a moment. I love when she was trying to describe it. She's like, "Do you remember back when we were in what was the name of this? Cloverdale? Is that the name of the city? Something like that. Like back when we were there, and Flex did his thing, and we were all like, ah, and and here you got Robot Man just being like, you mean when he made the whole town orgasm? Yeah, I remember that. How can I?
Do you remember his reaction during that scene?
Well, when he was.
Because everybody else was, and he can't feel anything.
Oh yeah, when he was
he was looking around, and he just started. Oh yeah, like that was so great, so well done. Like I remember that scene as soon as he said that, and I was like, oh, that was so fantastic.
Yeah. You mean the number one feeling of all other feelings that people should ever feel?
Yeah, he described it. It's about right.
You got. Let's see. Larry is still doing the Larry thing. Dude, this whole show with Larry and this whole inner spirit Keeg thing it just keeps going from season to season. They are able to string this thing out hardcore.
Yeah, it seems like there's no end to it.
Yeah.
Like I want some closure. Like it felt like we almost got that at the beginning of last season.
Well, they keep
Right?
trying to evolve it, but they do it literally like the speed of evolution.
Yeah,
It
that's true.
takes forever and a day for anything to come out of it. Now, Keeg Dig saved the day, so we got a little bit of an interesting moment there with him, which I keep saying him. I don't know what the hell it is, but the Blue Spirit Electrical Ghost. We had Rita, clearly completely still upset that no one wants her to be leader. She thinks someone's going to throw this thing for her at the theater, which, did this character just come out of left field for people? This Dr. whatever her name was?
June something, wasn't it? Can't remember.
I didn't really... I was kind of watching it in between a few different things, but...
That was Dr. Janice.
Janice, that's what it was.
I didn't really feel like they did a decent job just trying to throw it all together. It just felt like, they just injected Janice into the show, and then boom, here she is. The gas, the movie theater, and all that.
Well, I mean, I think Janice is a tool for the bigger villain, because honestly, it felt like this was kind of a villain of the week show.
Yeah,
like it didn't feel like there was any kind of like background there, except for maybe the Cyborg story, which we're going to talk about that too. But I mean, I didn't mind the introduction of her because like she came there, she did her purpose. Now, if we never see her again, then yeah, it's dumb. But I think that it's going to be a character you're going to see again. I think she's like the finger of the hand, like that. Yeah,
well,
like that.
Well said.
But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, what is Madame Rouge? She goes in and starts looking through the files and actually finds up something on Dr. Janice. I love the moment to where she was like, she called her, was it detached and empty of empathy or something like that? I was like, who isn't? I love that little snide remark. I'm like, yeah, you're talking about everyone in the world today right there. But other than that, Madame Rouge just sits there and gets drunk. She gets pissed because she basically sets up the team for failure. Yeah. The whole trust exercise.
They had the absolute best scene with her, though, when she's sitting there getting drunk. And because, she's looking for the way to defeat this doctor. And I guess the part that's the way to combat is marked out. And she's yelling like, fuck or damn, I can't remember what it was. Asshole, that's what she's yelling. Asshole, and keeps yelling it. And like she yelled it so loud and it cuts right to commercial right in the middle of her yelling it. And I was like, that was perfect timing. I laughed.
I'm gonna tell you right now,
absolute perfect timing.
That moment is like I 100% connected with that character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've been there. I've probably been there this week. Like I've definitely been there. But yeah, that moment was super funny with her. Like, did I just say super funny? Wow, that is so terrible way to describe something. It was super good. But
best.
Right. Let's talk about Cyborg's story. Like,
or the lack thereof, since he's he's really not owning this whole Cyborg thing.
No, I liked the whole meeting with the four friends. I liked the interaction between the four of them. It's just like you could tell there was something behind everything as it was going on. And then like you get to the point where they're having the laser tag fight, which is pretty fun anyway. I would love to go play some laser tag. So
maybe think Laser Storm, man.
Yeah. We remember we used to go to the knockout all night, shoot till you drop. It was like 9 to 12, $20.
Yeah, we did it.
Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
You youngsters, y'all had so much fun.
we digress. Anyway, they're in this fight and like they start to talk and he's like, "You left me," and I'm like, okay, dude, I get it, maybe like how you feel, but let's really not victim blame here. This dude had his mother killed, had his body blown up. He's turned into a superhero with a half mechanical body. Like, let's give him a break, okay? He's making the choice to come back and hang out with you. I really didn't like that part, and I was like, wow, I would be pretty pissed, at that point.
Well, that's what they were trying to say. They were trying to say that, they were all real tight growing up. Things happen. But, what was funny about the whole entire scene is that my mind went to Cyborg in the, like, a Snyderverse. Like that's where I was thinking, he was so like emotionally detached for a while. Because the show's completely different. I had to like fill that in with other knowledge that I knew about Cyborg. And so I I sided with him. Like, I had much more of I had more empathy towards that character because it wasn't actually this character in the show.
Mhm.
I get it. Like, when people die that are close, you don't know how people are going to react.
Right.
But even though they were all friends and they were all close, yeah, it could have affected all of them. But
Right.
they were definitely coming off. The one dude was definitely coming off as an asshole towards him. And if it's been 10 years, you can say what you can. It's been 10 years. The problem is that if Cyborg's trying to show up and just jump right back into it, you gotta know a little bit better.
I get that. You're right. They're but I mean, like I said, I feel where these guys are coming from. Well, like I just feel like he laid it on a little thick. Like it's not just like a normal situation. Like Cyborg didn't just like say, you know what, guys, I'm out. I'll see y'all in 10 years. It was a little bit different. But I do get what you mean. You're right. Maybe he tries to jump back into the situation a little too quickly, and they do have a right to feel, a little bit the way they felt. And you could tell the other two did feel that way. They just handled it a little differently as far as how they were doing it. So, still good story. I don't know where they're going with Cyborg in this. I know we've already seen future Cyborg and he has tech again.
I think they're just trying to show
tech again.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to show that it's a struggle. It's a struggle to have something that you had that especially was extremely useful to your day-to-day life taken away, and he's not coping very well with it at all. But I feel like this whole show with Cyborg has been him. Actually, screw it. All these characters have all been coping problems.
Mm-hmm. Most of them losing their powers. It's
not right? Doom Patrol. It's like Doom therapy, and they are all showing you why they need therapy, and then slowly, like, getting it here and there.
But they don't have Niles to be their therapist.
True.
Right? That was basically what it was, right?
How did the first episode of the season start? Dr. H was basically, laying it out for the viewer of like, what's up with all these people? Why are they all having these problems? And, her handing out diagnoses like crazy.
Yeah. I don't know, man. This show is a difficult one to pinpoint, like, where it's going. Like I said, but the whole episode, I wasn't really feeling a thread throughout the entire, like a background story running through the season until the very end. So obviously this Dr. Janice is a minion of who I think is probably the bigger villain. She was sent to retrieve this. What are they talking about raising? You said it in the
Immortus will rise. I actually did a little research because that Mr. 104. I'm like, what in the hell are you talking about? So of course, I'm like, okay, I gotta know. So apparently that guy is Jonathan Dubrovny or whatnot, which he's actually an enemy of Doom Patrol, which he's kind of like he's almost like an atom, like Atomic Man or something like that. He can like change his form or whatnot. Okay. And then you got Immortus, which that kind of fell into because it's General Immortus, that he had like been after some kind of immortality thing from Calder. So I'm like, I'm really curious to see how they're going to set this up, because this is like the comic story or whatever.
Okay.
Because it's like you dropping names. I'm like, I gotta know who people are. I can't wait. Because as crazy as this is, no, because the only thing I can think through this episode here, number one, as much as I love Robot Man and as much as I love Jane, I'm like, y'all are the biggest two damn youngins. I mean, it's like my two kids. Yeah. I'm like, get your shit together. I mean, y'all act like you're freaking teenagers. And I'm like, are you supposed to be grown adults here? I mean, what's going on here? Which I know Jane, she's splitting in like 100 different other people, so I get that, but still. And I don't know. And like I said, don't even get me started on the whole Cyborg thing, because I'm like watching this going, all four y'all folks need help. I mean, all y'all need relationship issues here, because you're blaming this dude because of shit happened to him where it just totally blew his mind. Just totally just threw his identity out of proportion. And you're all mad because, oh, I missed my best friend. Well, guess what? That's freaking life. I'm sorry. The fact of the matter is, let's be adults. They're here now. Let's move forward. Sorry, that's just
no. I want to write that down for a short right there.
You can keep all of this going. It is dead honest truth.
Hey man, I've lived that shit, and I'm sure you fellas have too. You know, hell, I've had a best friend for 30 some odd years. I moved or shit happens. I haven't spoke to her probably 5 years. I mean, shit happens.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, woe is me. Oh my God. It just ruined my life. No, you just build a bridge and get the fuck over it. I mean, that's just the way it is.
The only caveat to that bit at all is like with Larry. Larry has lived with this thing for decades. Like there is no privacy. Like, you know, thank God for Flex, because it's probably the only time that he ever had an orgasm. You can't hide from other people when you're trying to do that. Like, what's he supposed to do?
Yeah.
So, you know, and then you start talking about and same thing with Jane. How's she supposed to get away from everyone else?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's. I mean, look, I know that this is a bit of a stretch when it comes to a story, but that's how it is. Robot Man literally never sleeps. He sits there in his chrome dome the whole entire time, just thinking, because you can't cut your mind off.
Well, see, that's what's so wild about him too, because you know, like with the Parkinson's, here you are, you're like literally a robot, but yet you still have that bit of, you know, the actual.
It's the disease. It's just a whole entire
real
thing.
deal. I mean, you actually have a real brain. I mean, you actually have, you know, organic matter.
They fixed the arm thing by giving him a new arm. Like, that part still hasn't made sense to me how that works. But then again, it's also a brain in a metal robot body.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. Well, it is funny because I actually never thought about that until you just said it, that he never sleeps.
Yeah.
Could you imagine never sleeping? Because everybody else sleeps. Like, so there's got to be like for 8 hours a day, probably somewhere in that vicinity, 6 to 8 hours a day. You're just by yourself.
He probably has to at some point, but yeah. But it, like last season or the season before, one of the two, they had clips of him. Is when they were showing him becoming Robot Man and how he went from being completely depressed that, you know, like wife and daughter were dead, or so, like all whatever he knew. And he was sitting in that room, and then slowly as the years, like decades went by, he started to build trains and, like, you know, do these other things. But he just sat there for the longest time, not doing anything, just sitting there. I mean, I imagine that the brain does have to sleep at some point, but as far as like those scenes showed me, I didn't think so.
Yeah. Let's talk about Rita's story. Kind of cool to see her old movies, you know, see the different, it was cool the different settings they put her in. She was what in like,
you're in Star Trek? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the sci-fi movie. And it was funny because they said this was her first sci-fi movie and her first, you know, box office failure. So
this is the movie I did for money.
Like, I'm wondering what's going on with her storyline, because she was in these movies. They were trying to steal her emotions. So I guess they said they wanted her to emote as much as possible. And then Larry says she's an actress. She wakes up and emotes all day long, which is true. You know, and they suckered her in 100% because praise her. And it's all you got to do is praise her. Show a little praise, man. You're just like putty in your hands, literally, you know.
They literally set her emote to drip.
Yeah. I wonder where they go with this storyline, though, because like she's gotten her emotions stolen now, and somehow or another, Keeg makes it into that movie setting, that universe, because that's one of Dr. Janice's powers. They said is that she can create an alternate universe, and that's what she's done here. Somehow Keeg makes it in that universe, and looks like he's like magic eraser wiping it away. Like I don't know what he's doing. So they didn't explain that. It was kind of weird, but Rita's the only one that doesn't come back. Like. Normal. She's passed out. They don't know what's wrong with her. Like, what do you think's going on with her?
Like, it has to be like the absence of emotion thing, right? I mean, like if that's the power they got sucked out, then I guess you can't come back without it. Or maybe they took something else. I don't really know.
Oh, she could wake up in the bed the next episode, the beginning of the episode, for all we know.
Yeah, and just, you know, completely emotionless. Which, man, like that would be a stretch for that character. She does a good job acting.
Overacting, yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, the actress for the role, not Rita Farr, but the actress for the role does a very good job of portraying Rita Farr. So it'd be really weird to see the other side of it, but I'm for it. I mean, you know, the show doesn't pull punches. I mean, it's weird with the capital W. So
yeah. Really, really. And let's talk about that puzzle too. I know we talked about the big puzzle that piece that she saw, but isn't it weird that like we're looking at different size pieces? They're all gray. There's no edges. Like, what the hell kind of puzzle is this? I first thought, and I was like, I love puzzles. I was like, I'd like to try that. Nope.
Yeah.
Well, I don't actually. I
Well,
don't know
if
what
you
else
can't
I
find
can
any
do.
corners or edges, I mean, where are you going to start?
I don't know.
That's the whole
That's the whole point.
metaphor. I mean, that is the
Probably start
entire
with that
metaphor.
eyepiece. I mean,
Yeah,
to be
well,
honest,
she may not be able to put that one down.
Probably start with that eyepiece.
She might
but
look.
I don't
She
know.
might look for that one again. I mean,
Yeah.
put that one off to the
You
side.
can't put a soggy puzzle together, folks. You can't
Right.
do it.
Well, I just think it's so funny because every time she goes over the puzzle, she like hits it or like throws a bunch of pieces everywhere, and I'm like, oh, don't do that because you're gonna be so mad when you get the whole thing together and you can't find that one piece. It's gonna ruin the whole thing. The hours of work that's gonna ruin it. But I don't know.
I put together one of those multicolored Lego piece puzzles to where it was nothing but 2x4 bricks, and that was a fun time. That was the whole thing was a gradient of color, and so it just went from like dark reds all the way to it went through the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
Looking at all those grays, I'm like, they all look like the same pieces, and then each time you go back to it, it's like they look a little different, or like you said, there may be a couple in there that look a little bit bigger. I mean, I feel like the whole point of the thing is confusion, clearly, and whatever metaphor that it is, I'm interested to see where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Now, what else? Did we cover all the characters?
I think so. Oh, I wanted to show you. This is the last puzzle I did. Actually got me a 3D puzzle. This thing's awesome. Like it's cardboard. So now I have.
Gotcha.
Have my cardboard Mjolnir and my real one that I could kill somebody with if I needed to.
So you have a stunt and a hero.
Right.
Is that what they are?
This is the one I use in the movies. That's right. This is the one I use in real life. So. All right. What were you about to say? I'm sorry.
The look towards the next episode. It's all what was Niles' daughter's name? Dorothy.
Dorothy.
Yeah.
It all seems like heavy Dorothy. So I don't know if the look towards this episode from the end of the second one seemed like I didn't see a whole lot in this episode from that. So I'm not sure if the next episode is truly going to be the Dorothy episode, but we are episode 3. What did I say? There's going to be 6 and then 12 total. So we're halfway through this first part. I don't know how they're going to connect these stories together, because the next one, the preview for next week's episode looked crazy. They were just bringing in all sorts of people, except for Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
Or so it seemed.
I never know where the story's going to go, but I found that this is one of those ones that I can just jump onto now that I've accepted that it is what it is. I can just jump onto now and not go into any expectations, or I don't have any expectations, Once again, like I thought this one was not a throwaway episode, but it's kind of a filler. I thought it was just a villain of the week, and then it ties you in at the very end. So you're like, okay, cool.
That's what this show does.
I don't remember enough about Dorothy, to be honest with you. That whole Candlemaker Dorothy storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't necessarily remember enough. Didn't she go away with the Candlemaker at the end?
She did with one of them, but was that the last time we saw her? I'm not sure if that was the last time we saw her.
I can't remember.
I thought she had to defeat the Candlemaker or something.
I thought so too, but I can't really remember.
I know.
I have to go back and watch
that's the other side of it, is that the show does not, the things that impact us from the show are sex ghosts and butts and all the other weird things.
Orgasm puzzle pieces, stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Nobody, like you said, they definitely killed one of their best
villains.
The first season was fantastic of this show.
The first season had a little different feeling than it has. Like, I feel like, once again, the first season was weird and strange and, like, cussing and all kinds of, 0 Fs to give about the entire show. Now they've really leaned into that because people love it.
Yeah.
So it's a little more, if you've gotten to season 4, to expect anything from the show. Like, it's like watching The Boys. You can almost expect anything from The Boys.
And I think Rita had a higher F count than Cliff this go around.
I have to go back and do the asshole count, because I know that Madame Rude, at least in that one scene, said it like 12 times. She was drinking.
Her lines in this episode were fantastic. Everything that she said was great. And that's why, because I don't really know how I feel about her. She was an add-on character. Yeah,
I can relate.
I think that's the best part, is that she is extremely relatable.
Yeah,
especially when she says, "I'm going to need a bigger bottle."
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I've said that.
Yep.
Love when she wakes up drunk, she's got the thing like, stuck to her finger.
She's
and
like,
all of a sudden,
shit.
boom.
Oh, yes. I can 100% relate.
Been in all those moments for sure. Well, is there anything else about Doom Patrol? I want to say we're kind of short on shows this week, so it's not quite as long. But we got some interesting news to talk about. If y'all want to hop into some news.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much done with shows. I'm like I said, we have the movie of the week, which none of us saw yet.
Haven't seen yet, right? Which we'll start the news off with that. But yeah,
and then I think also actually Netflix dropped a show. Well, let's start off with Avatar, then we'll get into the other stuff.
Okay, let's do it.
Avatar has gotten pretty good reviews from what I've heard, just from like the circles that I like to listen to.
I haven't actually looked up anything on Avatar. I'm not going to lie. I didn't even realize that it came out yesterday. And it's not because I think it's going to be a bad movie. We were discussing it beforehand. It's a movie that I'm going to see, and I'll probably go see it in theaters. This is the first major movie that's come out in a long time that I haven't bought tickets in advance opening night and been excited for. And it's a 3-hour movie. I don't mind a 3-hour movie, but I have to have some kind of excitement to want to go see a 3-hour movie. And Avatar, since it's been so long, just hasn't gotten that excitement in me enough to want to go see it. Maybe I should rewatch the first one. I probably should. It's been a while.
Well, see, that's what I did. We took the kids and I rewatched the first one when it came back out in theaters. And like I was kind of saying, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie. I know I saw it at least 2 or 3 times in the theater when it was first released, because you had to see it 2D, had to see it 3D, and then just go back to see it anyways, because I just love that. I just love the visuals. But to see it again, and matter of fact, we were going through our DVDs and everything. I've got both versions. I've got the first DVD they released, and then I've got the extended. So I mean, I just love that. I mean, like I was telling you guys, I mean, you got 7-foot tall feline, creatures. I'm like, hey, I'm all about it.
Jake Sully.
And I love the creatures. I love the world that was created.
Yeah.
I just loved it. So that's why, it's kind of, hearing about because when the first Avatar came out, you knew Cameron had plans for, 2, 3, and 4 already. Mm-hmm. Because, that's just, he's like, I've got this plan, I'm going to do it. And of course, what, 13 years later, and you're finally going to release the second one. I'm like, oh Lord, I can't wait for the rest of them, if you're going to go do that. But still, seeing it in a theater again, I mean, it did, for me, it didn't skip a beat. I mean, it was like, I wasn't looking at my watch thinking, oh my God, is it over with? I mean, that kind of thing. I mean, I was still immersed in it. So that did kind of get me a little bit more excited for the second one. So, it wasn't anything I wanted to see opening night, because, I mean, let's just face it. I mean, that's just not going to happen. I'm over, that was years ago. I'm over those days. I mean, if I see it, I see it. I try to see it as close to opening as possible, but still. But yeah, we're going to go see it. Yes, Saturday. So we're going to go to a later show. But I mean, my kids were interested, so that was kind of one of the things too. I'm kind of glad that they got the opportunity to see it, so they're a little bit more immersed in the world, and kind of it'll make sense, because it's really hard to kind of go to a movie now without the youngins, to be honest with you. So
yeah.
It's funny, that's why I always go to open night movies. What's up, Kev? Man, we just got started with the news. We talked about Doom Patrol and Willow for a little while. If you want to throw some thoughts out there about those, you can. But we're just getting started on the news, and this is not really our first story. We were just kind of talking about Avatar. Are you Avatar fan? Yeah, none of us.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first one, but I like the visuals. But the plot was kind of Dances with Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, I give you that.
I'm not really happy to see the second one, but I'll see it.
Well, my thing is, it's like, think about how innovative it was, when it first came out. So now I'm really curious to see how much it has evolved, especially with the the CGI, and because I think the one thing I've heard is especially like the water, the visuals for the water is just, it's mind blowing. So that's probably just sitting there just staring at it like, oh my God, But I mean, for me, Avatar has just been an immersive type experience. Yeah, I'm not saying the story's the greatest because obviously it's not really creative, but the world is.
Yeah,
So it's
definitely.
so that's what pulls me in.
The rumor that I've heard is that he turned in his written treatment for the fourth one. He's at that point now.
Wow.
And because the fourth one's supposed to come out in 26, I think that's how this is staggered.
So it's not going to be a huge gap in time, thank goodness.
No, the last one comes out in 28, I'm pretty sure. So I mean,
it's not too bad.
We're talking we are now in the phase of Avatar.
Okay,
they are. 3 is supposed to be at its editing point right now. 4 is supposed to be maybe. I'm not sure where it's at. I'm not positive, but all that I know is that what he has turned in so far, they gave him no notes on is what the rumor is, meaning that they're happy with it, progress forward. And so it's weird that, 2 has gotten, like I said, from what I have heard, really good reviews. And from what I've looked at when it comes to trying to get a ticket, sold out. The shit seats were the only ones that were left. And I didn't really expect it to be crazy being, right around Christmas. And, it didn't, to me, it doesn't have the same energy that Star Wars had coming out around Christmas. That's just me though.
Right.
Sarah's completely right. I mean, when this thing came out, it was groundbreaking.
Oh yeah.
What they did, even with just seeing the Na'vi on screen was crazy, much less the premise and everything that he introduced with all of the character traits that they had.
Yeah.
But I will go see it. Like I said, soonest will probably be Sunday, but most likely next week sometime.
See, that's what's so nuts for me is I remember when the first one came out, like you said, I loved it. It was great. It was groundbreaking, man. It looks beautiful, awesome story. It was long, but I don't mind a long movie as long as it's a good story. That's why I don't understand why I'm not I'm not really that excited to go see this one. I just don't get it. Like I said, maybe I need to rewatch this the first.
It's just been so long because, like I said, when Avatar came out, man, that was the big thing. And I mean, it was everywhere. But I mean, if you go over 10 years for a franchise and there's been nothing behind it, I mean, it does take a minute to kind of bring back that, that excitement because you're like,
it's a new generation of people. Basically.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a freaking decade. I mean, it's been over a decade. I mean, unless it's.
But Greg,
matter of fact, I just had the antenna, what was it? ABC was on or something. I don't, and they were playing Avatar. It was like a Sunday evening, and I can't remember why I had it on. But anyways, and I'm just like, oh, because I'm on just flipping through the channels, and I was like, well, shit, they got Avatar here.
How long is it with commercials? Oh my God.
But see, that's the thing about it. That was really the first movie that was like a 3-hour movie. You didn't have movies weren't that long in 09. They weren't that long.
A lot of them, yeah.
I mean, you might have had a 2-hour movie, but a 3-hour movie? Oh no, that was unheard
Titanic was long. I mean, there's been a few in history that have been, pretty long.
But the point is, how many 3-hour movies do we have now?
You're right.
You're right. Not a lot. You're right. We're close to it. What were you going to say a minute ago, Kev? Sorry.
I was going to say, I mean, Willow had a very giant time gap, and you were so excited about it, though.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't know why I was so excited about the show Willow. You're right, because of the time gap. You're absolutely right. That's why I just don't get it. I need to rewatch Avatar.
It was also a show.
Maybe,
true.
Maybe if there's a bigger time gap, you would be more excited about Avatar. Like, oh my God, they're doing it after 30 years. But it's still 10 years.
Possibly.
Well,
you're right. Going the other way.
In the chat, it brings up Maverick. Dan brings up Maverick, and talking about that is, I mean, that's true. There's something to be said about a proper age gap. I don't think that you can. I don't think Avatar really pulls that off very well, though. It seems like maybe the fact that they're not real characters, and you're trying to age the Sully character, the Jake character, and then now he's got kids and whatever the case may be. It doesn't seem like it ages the same as seeing real people like Warwick Davis or Tom Cruise
Mhm.
on screen. So
Yeah.
it almost has nostalgia just for that simple fact.
I don't know. Once again, I'm gonna go see it, and I'm sure it's gonna be a fantastic movie. I haven't looked at the numbers on it, on as far as what it's done. Cody, you with us right now? I'm sure. I know you said he's gonna come on in just a second. I probably should
still
put him
on
in,
mute.
but anyway, we'll get him. We'll get his thoughts on it too, because I do want to hear Cody's thoughts on Avatar, because I've actually never.
I'm
seen it.
here. Sorry.
Hey, Cody, what's up, man?
Dude.
Sorry, I won't try to rush you.
No,
Um,
you're good, dude. Friday
hey-
free for all. They just give me a headache, man. So I had to get
They were
I had to get
wild,
some
were they?
medicine.
like wrangling up a bunch of people, or a
Oh,
bunch
and
of kids,
that dude in the hat, he doesn't help either, bro. On the bottom right, man. He's a problem. But
wearing his Gamecocks.
no, sorry, I'm so late,
Yeah.
man. You know, free for all gets
you're
wild over
fine.
there.
You're
Now
You're
I get
good,
to,
man.
now I get to decompress with y'all, man. What's
There
up?
you go. There you go. Well, we just walked into the news, man. We were actually talking about Avatar. What are your thoughts on just the first movie, man? Is it one you loved? Are you excited about seeing the second one? Have you seen the second one yet?
Dude, it was fun. It's like a $1 million or mega $1 million CGI budget type of film. I'm not a hater of it, but at the same time, I never found it to be some, like it was Dances with Wolves. If you've ever seen Dances with Wolves or Fern Gully, you've seen
Oh, I
the
love
story
Fern
of
Gully.
Avatar.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
love
true.
Fern Gully. That's one of my favorite of all time. But no, I might go check out the second one. I'm not opposed to. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of where a lot of us are right now. Maybe we will love it after the second one, and maybe with it, more of them coming out more frequently within the next few years, it'll make us want to dive into this universe again.
Yeah.
But we'll see. What else we got on the news, Ross? Some interesting stuff this week.
Well, I was gonna say that today, I think it's a show. The Recruit dropped. I haven't watched it yet, so I'm probably gonna look into. But Netflix has been, kind of all over the map with trying to figure out their own stuff.
Aren't they always though?
Yeah, they are, and it seems like it's been. Now that we're reaching the end of the year, they're basically kind of articles are coming out saying, Netflix is on like a downer year, but they perked up with like Wednesday and a couple other shows they have. The Harry and Meghan show about the ex-royal couple seems to be a big thing, but so much hate talk. But they're also out in canceling season, so that Blockbuster show got canceled. They're coming back at them left and right.
I was actually excited for that one.
I watched the show. It
Yeah.
was what I thought it was going to be. It was nothing crazy. It was entertaining. Literally, it was background music or background noise for me, and it pure nostalgia being Blockbuster. And it was funny the way they handled it. I liked the actors and actresses they had in it. The clips were funny. It just was anchored around Blockbuster, and it was pretty funny. But they said nope, and canceled that sucker. And Netflix, I just don't get it. I don't. So many things are happening with all these streaming services that when I was just doing some reading, I just was like, I don't know what. I kind of feel like I want to pause Netflix for like a good 6 months and then come back to whatever they have on there and just like rip through it for like a month. Like you always said, you got friends that just do one streaming service per month, and
yeah,
I'm kind of over the Netflix drama.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I ever turned Netflix on. I'm trying to think of what I turned Netflix on to watch now. I haven't turned Netflix on for a while to watch anything. Like it's all been Prime or Disney or.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
For if you want something good on Netflix, watch Pinocchio.
Really?
I have heard it was good.
Dude, it is
Hanks?
my favorite. No. That was the Disney Plus one.
Okay.
This is the
Guillermo del
Toro. And he was the director. But listen, nothing that you see is animated in a computer. It's real puppets. They made real sets, and it's a real stop motion movie. Mm-hmm. It is one of the most. Better than
Yeah,
I love,
Made in
I love
America.
Team America, but better than Team America.
Look, yeah.
Dude, seriously, the best rendition of Pinocchio I've ever seen in my life. It's a mature movie, but it's still for all ages. And
Mhm.
dude, it is one of the most beautiful movies you will ever see in your life.
Really? Okay. I'll add it to the list.
Will
I'm
say,
telling you, it is incredible.
I'm
It
probably
It's like-
really is.
It's a good COVID project. If you had nothing to do for that amount of time.
I'm gonna have a lot of downtime in the next few weeks to watch some stuff. So I'll put
Yeah,
that
it's
on the list.
it's really interesting.
Did you watch this, Sarah?
Yes, we actually watched it over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Brian had turned it
Yeah.
on.
And it's
It
on
was-
Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was really, really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
it's
It's
a
my
good
favorite
it's,
Pinocchio.
yeah, it's a
Another
good
one-
iteration of Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And plus, it's got Ewan McGregor voices on one of the characters as well.
Hey, I would recommend RRR on Netflix. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
RRR.
You said you would, or
Yeah,
what?
it's like an Indian movie.
Okay.
I would. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's you ever seen Kung Fu Hustle?
I like that movie.
Basically like that. It's the most expensive Indian movie ever made. And it's ridiculous. Like just story, but it's also ridiculous.
It's like
It's amazing.
You're talking
It's
like
3 hours long.
Bollywood.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's
Okay.
Tollywood, but it's not really Bollywood. But yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, Mike says RRR is crazy.
Loved it.
So yeah, I'll add it to the list. Have to check it out. Is it a show or
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah.
It-
Crazy. Huh?
But is it a show or a movie?
No, it's a movie.
I said,
it's
is
3 hours long.
It's a movie.
So there's
Okay,
another
yeah,
3 hours.
that's all right. Like I said,
Another
good
3 hour
content. I don't
movie.
mind.
There you go.
Yeah. Good.
Hey,
I
yo,
don't mind.
It's different at home.
True.
Hey,
It is different. when
Kevin,
pause
you
it.
might
Yeah.
want to come back in and come out. Your video is starting to lag a little bit.
Am I lagging?
Yeah,
Yeah, a
audio's
little bit.
cutting out a little bit too. Yeah.
The only, let's see, we got HBO dropped. HBO's pulling properties like crazy with this whole Discovery merger thing. They're pulling stuff off like Westworld, and like a handful of other things are just ripped out right off the surface.
Well, I saw an article that like it's like the unbroken rule about what they're doing. Like they're
Yep.
taking originals from other streaming services. You know, I'm like, well, I mean,
They're trying to make money off of them is really
who
what they're going
cares? Yeah, they're trying to make money. I mean, what difference does it make if it's an original or like a network show? Like it's just
Yeah.
who really cares.
MCU news, we got, Iron Man is now in the National Film Registry, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
The first, I love the original Iron Man movie.
One of the best
Personally,
Marvel
so,
movies. Yeah.
yeah.
Easily one of the best Marvel movies.
I'm going to hold off on the DC news for a second.
Yeah,
Because that's a
'cause
whole deep
the big-
dive.
That's
That's a little
the
touchy.
part. Yep.
The Star Wars stuff is, look, that's going to intertwine, but actually I'll link it together that way. So far we have Ahsoka is coming out and saying that everything that they're talking about the live action show, they're going to show Ahsoka at all these different age intervals. They're going to have different actresses actually portraying Ahsoka. I'm interested to see how they do that. I
Yeah.
want to see I want to see the tie-ins. I basically want to see we got to see Ahsoka grow up through animation.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I'm really interested to see how they're going to do it in the show. It could be one episode. It could be flashbacks throughout the season. It could be all sorts of things. But I'm ready for the Ahsoka show. Andor has me hyped on Star Wars, period. And we went through a little bit of a dark period, when Rise of Skywalker came out. It was kind of dark for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Kind of me too. I'm not sure that I've seen that movie more than twice. I may have only watched it once.
The Rise of
Really?
Skywalker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I may have been seen in theaters, and that might have been it too.
Yeah.
I am a humongous Star Wars fan, and I've already said countless times that the Mandalorian television universe is definitely more my thing, but the Star Wars television universe, all of these shows, Andor was like it was peak non Jedi Star Wars, I guess is what you can call it, non-Force Star Wars. It was fantastic.
I'm-
Yeah.
Jedi adjacent is what I'd call it.
I remember
yeah.
walking out of Rise of Skywalker thinking the same thing, walking out of Justice League in the theater. Like just a really giant studio movie put together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt very confused. I went to go see it very late, and like I didn't know when I was going to have a chance to see it, so I bought the first available ticket.
But
Once like my plans were done, and when I walked out of that thing, I felt like a jumbled mess. Like I was like, what am
what
I?
did I just see?
What am I feeling? I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
feeling right now.
Acolyte wrong, but you get the gist.
Yeah.
Dan
We got,
Floyd asked in the chat, are there any Darth series
Oh,
or
really?
Darth series or movies coming out? And I know there's the Acolyte series they talked about.
Yeah.
I don't know
Which
the time
seems to
frame on
be
that.
ramping up pretty well.
was,
Yeah,
Hey,
gaining traction.
Dan Floyd also was talking about Arcane earlier in the
Yeah.
chat room. Oh, we love some Arcane, dude.
Yes.
We're definitely going to be talking about season 2 whenever that drops.
I've been waiting for the news, like true news. I'm holding off until I hear anything. I even brought it up last week. We were talking about stuff that happened, and so with the video game awards, they won best adaptation to a series.
Yeah.
And dude, they're if you follow Arcane news, they are winning shit left and right.
Yeah.
And it's a true testament to it. I love it.
Dude, it even gives me hope for animation. Because, I don't know if you guys heard, speaking of Netflix, they cut a bunch of the animated series that they had been producing. So,
They stopped, yeah.
Yeah, and dude, it's really sad because I really love animation. And I feel like animation at its best is such a good storytelling medium. And the technology is getting better. And when when companies don't feel like animated series are worth the trouble that they are to produce, then they don't get made anymore. So
But
that's why
there's a caveat to
Arcane
that.
is such a good thing for the industry right now. Yeah,
Arcane was not made through Netflix. Arcane was only shown on Netflix. They bought the rights to, or negotiated the rights to actually show it. It was
that
not
actually makes more
to do
sense.
with Netflix's animation line.
So that's not a Netflix original then.
No,
It's just a
not
show
at all.
on Netflix.
But
Okay.
that makes sense if I'm being very honest.
It's
kinda
safe.
hedging
Like,
their
it is
bets,
dead
right?
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about Arcane. I want to talk about this. Was it 64 is the name of the movie?
65.
65. Have y'all seen
one
that?
off, man. You were so close.
I know. Man, this movie, I love dinosaur movies. I like Adam Driver. So I think this movie's going to work for me. It looked pretty badass, the preview. Like I saw it and I hadn't heard. This is the first I've ever seen anything about it. I haven't heard anything about it or anything.
Yeah.
Ross, you sent it to me and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I cannot wait to see this movie.
It is right on board with like any Jurassic Park World fan. I mean, it is. That show is awesome. I will tell you right now. If you haven't watched Edge Runners, go watch it. It's fantastic. It piques the dinosaur fans, but at the same time, it brings in what any sci-fi show, movie, property can do, and it creates its own universe somehow, some way, and it does it in a manner that really makes you question: what if this were real? Like, what if we drop in on another world and humans actually show up and affect evolution just by showing up? But not only that, it makes you think that what's the Brendan Fraser movie? Is it that one where he goes back in time, or Journey to the Center of the Earth, or something like that?
Yeah, Journey to the Center of the Universe, something like that.
Oh no, it's Will Ferrell.
That's Land of the Lost with Will Ferrell.
Land of the Lost. Where they sit there and fight dinosaurs. What was your question?
I was gonna say they make it seem like it's landing on another planet, but is it time travel? Is the question. So that's one thing going into this movie. I'm real iffy about time travel. I got to figure out these rules. So if it's time travel, I'm interested to see what happens with this. But the movie looks fantastic.
When I was watching the trailer, it reminded me of the Turok games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I saw the guns and everything, I was like, "Oh,
okay.
Oh yeah." The guns look crazy.
Did Adam Driver's voice sound really weird for most of this commercial?
I think Adam Driver's voice is a little weird. Like he just has such a different way about him. Like it's how we grew up in a generation of actors and actresses who had very defining voices. Like Sean Connery and Nick Cage. They had a very specific way of talking. Right. Adam Driver has that in a world where it's not really a big thing anymore. He just has
Yeah.
that distinctive sound.
I can see that. I also want to talk about there's some Battlestar Galactica news, right? Aren't they? Not Battlestar Galactica. I'm sorry. I think there is Battlestar Galactica news, but there's also the Stargate news, right?
Oh,
You know what I just realized the other day for the first time about Stargate, and I feel like an idiot, is that James Spader is the main character in that movie, a young James Spader. Like, me and Nathan were talking about it, and he was like, yeah, you see young James Spader. And I was like, holy crap. And as soon as I thought about it, I saw the face, and I was like, it is. Well, I'm watching Blacklist right now, too. So obviously, but like, I cannot believe I didn't ever put that together. Or think about that.
Yep.
But anyway, new Stargate show. Do we know anything about it?
What was the news that I sent you? It was the writers of the show that I like, The Expanse on Sci-Fi, were starting to head up the story to give one of the first writing treatments for the Stargate. I do believe series that's actually coming. It's going to be a reboot, not reboot. It's going to be another Stargate story being told on Amazon, I believe. Is that who had the rights? I can't remember the article that I actually sent you.
Sure.
That was like at the end of last week's show.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. We just forgot to mention it last week, but I know we have some Stargate fans on the show, so in chat room.
But I'm good with it. Look, when I find writers that write good things, I am really on board with following their careers. The stuff that they create. It was what was it? It was I can't remember the original property that the writers worked on, but the two of them split, and like half of them went to The Expanse, and like the other half of them went to go make something else, and both of them were like banger shows. Which, yes, Expanse is awesome. I keep trying to tell Greg here to watch it.
What's Expanse on? I'll add to the list.
It's on Prime.
Prime Expanse. All right.
They haven't finished the entire story. I'm still on board, hoping that
Rebels.
one day they make a movie for the end of it. But it's real good. Especially, I loved like the first 4 seasons were fantastic. It was a hell of a show. The characters were really awesome. One of the best things that I still watch it. I mean, like every couple of years, just go back and rewatch it. I love it that much.
You know why I think I haven't watched Expanse yet, and this is weird. Just a weird thing in my head is my wife watches this show about some plane crash where the plane disappears, and it's not a terrible show. And all the passengers come back. It's not a terrible show, but I'm like
Lost.
I know, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I can't remember what it's called. But when I think about The Expanse, I think it's that for some reason. I just always think that. I'm like, well,
The Expanse
that's
is
an
not
okay
that
show, but I would never turn it on. You know, like it's not something I would like. I wouldn't continue to watch this show. Me personally, my wife
The Expanse has a whole series of books out. It's written under the name of James A. Corey or S. A. Corey or whatever the name that they chose, but it's actually two writers.
Yes. Sorry.
Manifest, yep. It's actually two writers, and everyone loves the books. The characters that they actually chose for the show were fantastic, and I think that the premise of the actual show, like I keep telling you time and time again, but Earth, Mars, they call them belters, people who deal with stuff outside of the planets. You know, basically what they're doing is they're mining for ice and water. But great show, highly recommend it.
Okay.
There's not much about the Stargate thing other than that, and like I said, I basically found it and put a pin in it because the fact that it had writers coming from The Expanse, which I love what they did with it. So screenwriters bring it to screen.
Expanse has audiobooks. I'm sold. I'll check it out. I'm always looking for a good new audiobook. I'll check that out.
I watched season 1 and a little bit of season 2. I meant to get back to watching it, but life happened and a million other shows came out. So I did mean to go back to it. But yeah, it's got a really futuristic sci-fi story that's really, really good. And there's like something bigger happening in the background that you don't really start to key in on until later.
Okay.
It's good. I'm not going to spoil it because I'm dead serious. You know, like same thing with like Game of Thrones. Like if you watch it, you'll truly enjoy it. The realism and like the universe feels like it could be where we go.
Okay. My wife's not usually into sci-fi stuff, but she did make it all the way through the 100. So I imagine if she did that, she can pick up on some good sci-fi. But
Yeah.
It's really
Hey,
like
it
an
may just be something you want to watch.
imaginable.
yeah.
It's basically like in the far-flung future, but an imaginable future.
Okay.
Like even the things that happen in the show are like rooted in science in a certain way.
Okay.
Like I won't. This is the only thing I'll say. I won't give anything else away. But there are people that live out in the edges of the solar system, in the far, far edges, and because they've lived their whole lives out there, there's no gravity. So they have these really long, tall bodies, and their arms and their legs are super long.
Oh,
And
so much more than that, but yeah.
yeah. More. And the last thing I'll say is that their body doesn't even hold up to Earth gravity anymore. It's like torture for them.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Like I said, I'm gonna have a lot of downtime. So far I've got Pinocchio, RRR, Edge Runners, Expanse, Finished Rebels, and then Nathan's recommended that I have The Last Ronin, but I haven't read it all yet. And he wants me to read the Power Rangers first book of that graphic novel. And
That's
then
a
there's
lot of recommendations.
It is. Then there's a Power Rangers and Turtles crossover where the Turtles have the power coins, which I'm so excited to see that one.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Cody, have you ever seen RRR?
It came across on my Netflix, but I just didn't.
I figured
watch
you
it.
would. I figured you'd be into it.
I mean, I'll check it out now that you said that it's worth a watch.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. Just getting out the good shows out there. We always pick out the best ones. So
yeah,
we have one little bit of news. Ross is rubbing his hands together, so I know that's probably what we're gonna bring up.
Well,
Right?
I just want to say two more things. Jack Ryan.
Oh
yeah,
yes,
it's coming.
Jack Ryan next week, right? I caught up on
The
that a couple weeks ago
21st,
because I have my
season 3
timing off,
begins.
but I'm caught up.
I'm there.
Yeah, I agree.
So excited about that one.
Since we're not going to be here, Jack Ryan is one of the big things. The Witcher Blood Origins also comes out, which we can lead right into another bit of conversation with.
Yes,
that.
Is that the cartoon?
casting for it.
Yes. No, Blood Origins is the one with. Oh my lord, what is her name? It's going to be a 4-part series, and it's basically the beginning of like when Witchers came into existence almost.
Oh yeah, I did hear about it, like the prequel almost.
Yeah.
A
Yep.
lot of
But
stuff.
we will jump right into we can start with Henry Cavill, I guess. We can start there.
Let's do it.
Unfortunately, there seems to be no official tie-in to how or why he specifically left The Witcher. Like,
The Witcher,
like
okay.
100%.
Okay.
Okay. Because what sucks now is that with the news that we've gotten this week and him kind of being freed up for a little bit, he could come back and play, Gerald.
Mhm.
Or Gerald.
Which is going to be weird to see this recasting, even though I like the actor. It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
But I don't think it will. I'll tell you later why.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I liked The Witcher a whole lot when it came out, and so to see Henry Cavill leave, that was one thing. And I will tell you the same thing that I told you whenever we were talking about Black Adam. When they popped him at the end of Black Adam and Superman, it really it was a stand back and breathe moment for me, because I'm like, it sounds nice in theory, but I don't think that that's where this is going to go. No. This week, they came out. He said, James Gunn being the she said, he said, she said that wasn't going to happen. We no longer are going to be getting the Superman movie with Henry Cavill. He's has not backed out of the universe. He is not going to be a part of the universe going forward. What was it? The other thing that you sent right before we started with?
They had the meeting. Yeah, I'll go into that. They had the meeting with Henry Cavill, and after his meeting, and he said he wasn't going to move forward as Superman. They cut his Superman scenes from the Flash movie, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Now today, this is after they've released him. Now today they announced that they just cut Wonder Woman Gal Gadot's scenes from the Flash movie as well. They've already canceled the Flash movie. It does really. I can't believe this is the last thing standing is the Flash movie. But the only reason that is because they're going to use it to reset the universe. I'm bound. It's already filmed. Why not use it? They're going to use it to reset. It kind of sucks that way. But what do y'all think? Like, this is just a rumor and it's just looking, speculation. But like, does that mean anything? You think that they cut her scene? I mean, I don't even know if that's true. It's from the direct. I trust that source. But I don't even know how true that is. But if it is, they're totally cleaning house.
Yeah.
with DC.
Did you read Henry? Did y'all read Henry Cavill's message that he put on his Instagram that said, like, it pretty much he made it sound like he was down to do whatever they wanted to do, but James Gunn, who is the new head honcho, is like, nah, we want to go in a different direction and do something different. Like when he left The Witcher, it seemed to me. And this is why I don't believe he's going to go back to The Witcher. He didn't like the way the showrunners were taking liberties with that show and deviating away from the books, because he's a big fan of the books. He loves the video games, and then the video games introduced him to the books, and that's why he loved playing Geralt. He was passionate about it. But a lot of people thought, well, once he quit that, he would have more time for Superman. But now he's not Superman anymore. So I don't see him going back to Witcher. I do see him potentially being a Targaryen in the future. I think a lot of people,
a Stark, maybe an early Stark.
I can see him playing Bizarro.
Here's the thing about Bizarro is I wouldn't mind him playing Bizarro, but like I just feel like Bizarro needs to very similarly represent whoever they're playing Superman. I feel like whoever you get to just like him. You do the best to have. I mean, he doesn't exactly look exactly like him in a lot of interpretations, like especially like Superman the animated series. But like it depends on what direction you're going to go, Bizarro. I think you'd be better set if you're going to cast Superman, have him play both roles, just in my opinion. But they did say that there could be future plans with him in the DC universe as another character,
which is cool. Look, I'll rip the Band-Aid off this whole entire conversation. I think that what James Gunn is doing is the way to do it. I personally believe that. If you don't clear your house and burn the forest so you can get better regrowth, like you got to do something. And what he's doing is drastic. Yes, a lot of people are not going to be happy with it. I've already said countless times on the show that I think that the castings that they've made for the Snyderverse were fantastic. I'm a fan of them. I was on board with what they were doing. Besides Cyborg, I wasn't crazy about that whole spin on it, but even the actor wasn't crazy about it either. But that's what I keep getting out of this. There's a whole lot of news that comes from the actors not being happy with what they're doing or what they're getting, and there's a whole lot of miscommunication in this whole entire thing.
Right.
Sometimes you got to cut the whole entire thing off and start all over again.
Is James Gunn wrong? Like if they're cleaning house, look. I know you guys are big time DC fans. I am too. Like that Justice League was a part of my life growing up. Like I do love these characters, and I some of their comic books are the most mature, fucking groundbreaking comics ever. But I just think that this DCEU over the past few years has gotten so murky with like people pulling it in different directions. It's like, I understand that maybe this isn't what everyone wanted, but I kind of think it's necessary. Like, Greg, I think you made the point in one of the chats that we're in together. It's like they tried to start it with the Superman movie, but then they had all these other Batman movies that were coming out that weren't even connected to it. So I think for continuity's sake, you just assume start over.
Yeah. And I agree. I think this would hurt a little less had I not seen Superman in costume at the end of Black Adam. And Ross, like you said, you're right. It was a bad idea. I loved seeing it. It was a bad idea. I love this Snyderverse and I love that vision. And I'm sad that I'll never get to see it again. But I've come to terms with the fact that I'm never going to see it again. So give me a good story. Stop dangling this in front of me and give me a good story, I actually have his Instagram post right here. Let's see if I can find it. He said, I just had a meeting with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it's sad news, everyone. I will, after all, not be returning as Superman. After being told by the studio to announce my return back in October prior to their hire, this news isn't the easiest, but that's life. The changing of the guard is something that happens. I respect that. James and Peter have a universe to build. I wish them all involved with the new universe the best of luck and the happiest of fortunes. For those who've been by my side through the years, we can mourn for it a bit, but we must remember, Superman is still around. Everything he stands for still exists, and the examples he sets for us are still there. My turn to wear the cape has passed, but what Superman stands for never will. It's been a fun ride with all of y'all, onwards and upwards. So,
Talk to me, Sarah. What do you think?
I'm kind of the same boat with you guys. I mean, it's like if you're gonna, if you're gonna clean house, I mean, just clean house. I mean, it does suck not to have Cavill back because he was a fantastic Superman. But I mean, it just makes sense. I think The Rock, he was trying to force too much, about bringing Cavill back because I mean, he did listen to the fans, and he just wanted to kind of do his own thing anyways, and he kind of wheeled a lot of stuff into the universe. But
people's champ.
Yeah, I mean that's just
Is he
that's his
gone?
personality.
Yeah,
That's his personality.
I think he's gone.
But but yeah, I mean I don't have any hate towards Gunn. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, if you're gonna do this, for the love of God, please do it right.
Right.
You're right.
That's the only thing I ask.
You're not
Think
going to
through it.
see
I
that
mean,
happen either for a while.
Yeah, I mean, be methodical about it. I mean, have a plan. And that's the one thing DC's always liked. You really just didn't have a solid plan. I mean, you had good leads, but it just never really, came to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
So
see, that's why I think Cavill's not going to return, because I think they're going to push the Superman movie like 5 or 6 years from now, and Cavill's not getting younger.
Right.
So I don't think he's going to be
Doesn't
able to play him.
Doesn't it also break the continuity too? Like if you see Henry Cavill back in the DCEU, even if he's another character, it's like your brain still sees him as Superman. Like for
Look
me,
at
for me,
Chris Evans, yeah. I mean,
right,
he was Johnny Flame and Captain America. So.
But to be fair, I think
about to get Lobo.
Henry Cavill being Superman for as many movies as he did, to me was a bigger deal than Chris Evans playing the Torch at the time. If that makes sense. And plus in the DC, you're not gonna upgrade over Superman. Whereas you can make the case that Captain America is a big upgrade over the Human Torch,
Well, it wasn't in like a continuity either, because it's like, Fantastic Four was their own thing, whereas you brought Captain America in and that was
right.
The MCU. So it's something totally different.
Yeah, good point.
Good, Kev.
Oh, I was going to say, did it really throw you off when you saw Michael Keaton as the Falcon as opposed to Batman?
No, because there was such a huge different time gap, and you're talking about two different universes too.
That's true.
So I mean, it will be weird. It will be weird if you're looking at the same character. The only character right now that I could think of, I would love Henry Cavill and I'd love to see him back, but I can't think of a character I'd want to play other than Superman, and it would be hard to pull him out of that. I can pull Jason Momoa out of Aquaman and put him in a Lobo though, and I can totally buy that.
Yeah,
I can totally buy that.
Dude, I'm gonna go back to it. Henry Cavill is a hunk, and that dude can do anything. I'm telling you, he can do anything. Yeah. I mean, especially if I haven't heard him complain too much about like keeping on mask. So if that's not a thing for him, he can come out hardcore as anyone. And I'm totally cool with it. I will buy into it because I've never had a problem with his acting. I've never had a problem with his portrayal of characters, whether they be real fictional or like, try to be like real people or they try to be comic book characters, whatever their take is on it. The man seems to be able to pull off anything almost flawlessly. Yeah. So I'm cool with him going to anything and doing anything.
True.
I don't think that there is even if he comes back to DC, I don't think that there's a cross-pollination problem with any of that. I think he could pull it off without a problem. It's all going to be about what he means to you. So literally, once again, it's what you bring into it. The Torch and Captain America is a prime example, but take what you did from that Fantastic Four and then what you got out of Captain America, and clearly he's America's ass because Captain America literally changed that role in the MCU.
Oh, 100%.
I think Henry Cavill could turn around and look. Here's the deal. I've seen him as Clark Kent, Kal-El. That's not a real super fun character. It's a very Uncle Ben character. Great power, great responsibility. Like he's always been able to. He has to be that person. And so you don't get the same thrill that you do out of other characters. He doesn't get to be Momoa style Aquaman and, have a blast doing everything that he wants to do. I would love to see him in a role like that. I want to see him have fun, but he is so good at being serious that, like, how do you take that away from him? What do you introduce him to next? But it's the same thing that we always think anytime they cast a character for anything that we truly like. Like, imagine, where is your mind going to go, when you see the next Wolverine? Is it going to be the person that you want to see in the role? Is it going to be someone completely different? Is it going to be too much, too little? What's it going to be?
Well, technically, Hugh Jackman's coming back as the next Wolverine.
Yeah, but they can do multiversal shit with him, like kind of like how they did with Spider-Man. Like they'll do the callback to the old Wolverine. But Ross is right. They're going to cast a new Wolverine. And to me, out of every superhero that's left to be seen, that's the biggest casting announcement that there is left to be had.
I don't know, man. Mr. Fantastic is a pretty big one.
Donald Glover just got a movie.
More than Wolverine?
I think so, because we've already seen a great Wolverine. We haven't seen a great. Well, I don't want to say that. I didn't hate the old Fantastic.
No, Doctor Doom.
That was
yes.
That was a great casting.
Doctor Doom is maybe my favorite Marvel villain of all time.
Yeah, he's a badass. I hope they give him the justice that he deserves as how powerful he actually is.
Yes.
They announced Donald Glover is going to be in a Spider-Man villain coming up.
Yes, I have that right here.
Everyone wanted to play Miles Morales.
Yeah, he's too old, bro.
He's going to be star and produce Spider-Man villain movie Hypno Hustler.
Too old. He's my age, and he's too old.
Well, Miles is supposed to be like, what, 14 years old?
You're going to be looking more towards kid. That's the problem with Spider-Man. Always has been, is that you got to be able to keep him young as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's why you're always going to have to eventually reboot these characters.
Which is where we're at with this DC conversation. Where are we going to start at?
DC has the plan laid out already. They have it. It's perfect. I know exactly what they got to do, and it will be successful. Just do all of your animated movies in the same order, same story, but just act them out live action. You got all your characters. I'm serious. Look, the animated movies from the beginning, from Justice League War all the way to the Apocalypse War, or the Apocalypse at the end of the last movie, is a fantastic story that all ties together. All the characters are out throughout the whole thing. It's just like Marvel's Phase 1, 2, and 3, and it's absolutely phenomenal. If they just did that live action, I'm sold. I'm done. Like, that's it. The problem with that is they would have to start out the exact same way that most people would hate for them to do, because the whole movie starts out, or first one is Justice League War. It introduces all the characters coming together for the first time to fight Darkseid, And it's like, well, people are going to be like, well, you bring the biggest villain in and bring all the characters in without introducing any of them. Then it goes out and do a bunch of movies. And I think that's what DC was kind of trying to do originally with the Snyderverse plan. But they could still do it that way. My
only argument to that, like, oh, you shouldn't have done them all together in one movie. It's like, we already know the backstory of Batman and Superman. Do we really need a single movie of them too?
Mm-hmm. And all the other characters, introduce me to them and then give me a solo.
Isn't that kind of what they did in the last couple ones? I mean, we look. I already said, watching the Batman movie, I was like, I can't see another Martha scene. Like, you got to do something about this. But it's the same thing for they took a different spin on Spider-Man, and it got hate, and
I loved it.
It got hate. Well, it got hate because they used Iron Man as the Uncle Ben character, and I think that all they did was they skipped past the Uncle Ben story to give you something else and something different. And I like the way that they did it.
I didn't think about that. Tony Stark being Uncle Ben.
So, like, you know how they have the Joker 2 coming out? Mm-hmm. Like, I know
that has nothing to do with DC.
No, I know, but that's what frustrates me. Is like, there's a part of me that wishes DC would just go full rated R. Like, if you're gonna have Marvel be the Disney superheroes, right? And maybe you'll get an R-rated Deadpool from time to time, but at the end of the day, it's going to be PG-13, mega blockbusters, make as much money as you can. Why doesn't DC just lean into the ultra mature, hardcore shit, and you might win an Oscar?
Like, I'm going to tell you something.
Harley Quinn didn't do a lot at the box office. I think it was a bomb, actually.
I think Sarah agrees with me. I
it
saw
was
a lot
rated
of
R.
Well,
people
that's
outside
because
of
they changed
Sarah.
the name like with 13 different times with
Yeah.
13 different words.
Yep.
That's my contradictive argument. Exactly what you just said. Because what I want is I almost want them to be able to do a universe for each of these things that is appropriate for the whole entire crowd. But I also love the complete adult side of it. You know, the Netflix Marvel stuff was on a whole nother level. The Punisher, whole nother level.
Yeah.
When you start bringing in something like that, it's difficult because where do you draw the line? And if you do draw the line, how do you intermingle these characters? Because if you put someone like Deadpool into a serious show or group him with other people, he loses who he is, and then you get people whining and bitching and moaning and complaining about how it doesn't work. And so how do you keep those different tiers? You know, it's almost like, do you separate them through live action animation? Do you separate them through you can't have multiple different runs because once again, with this DC news, here we are talking about how it doesn't work. And
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, I heard something about Marvel doing a strictly like street level superhero, like keep them together, like the Daredevil and like all the street level guys together.
But it's supposed to be in universe.
Yeah, they're in the same universe, but they're not really getting into the big, I guess. Oops.
It's the correlation. So like when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came out, they started doing that same kind of thing. They started keeping it very much in universe with, as the movies kind of came, like the Avengers flicks were coming in, ebbing and flowing, they would drop in that news, but they were still far enough away to where all it did was say something about the universe, which made it feel connected. It really did. And so the thing about the Netflix shows is that they were never truly connected to what was happening in the MCU. What I think that they're trying to do and patch that up with is to have the same kind of types of shows, but make them in the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always call it the event. I remember that.
Can I respond to Dan, though, for a sec? Like, Dan, I'm not saying that Marvel isn't, when they do make, mature content. I'm not saying it's not good. Marvel has some incredible mature content. But I'm just saying that, like, it's very clear in the MCU, the vibe and the feel and the direction that they're pointing towards. And it just feels like in the past few years, DC is at its best when they go dark, when they go gritty. Like, imagine seeing The Killing Joke on film. Dude, that would be the best shit ever, man. Like, I would go see that in a heartbeat.
Well, it depends. You mean the way the book ended or the way the animated movie ended?
They don't want to do the animated one. People hate it.
Yeah, I would say the book. Like, the book is incredible. But yeah, like that's all I mean. If they're gonna have these clearly defined lanes, I just wish that DC would jump fully into that rather than trying to please and serve all these different audiences just for the sake of trying to keep track with Marvel. Like, to me,
the problem is with that, though, you can't bring in new fans.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true though. Like,
if you make the whole entire thing targeted towards an older crowd, you are blocking out that fan base of younger people who aren't allowed to watch these things. If you got parents with a lick of sense, they're not going to let you watch some blood gore that's really bad. You probably shouldn't watch. That's something that I know. Look, it all depends. What I'm saying is, you can't bring a 4-year-old in this and expect it to work.
I was just going to say, to be fair, I wasn't allowed to watch Batman, the original one with Michael Keaton.
I remember
when I was younger.
I would say, like, if you look at The Dark Knight, I mean, it's a dark movie. You don't have to go hard R.
It's the feel. It's the feel. Think about it,
Right.
because a lot of DC, majority of these books, I mean, a lot of them are like graphic novels.
Yeah.
It's and I know they have a lot of comic book, comic series, but a lot of it, I mean, it is, graphic novels. Whereas Marvel, I've always looked at it this way. To me, Marvel's more bright, even though you can have a dark story, but for me, it's just a brighter type feel. Whereas DC, it's always been dark and gritty. Now, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to like blood and gore and all that kind of stuff and be like 100% R, but that's just the feel that I've always had, or I always associate with DC.
It's a different story.
But that's what I'm saying, and you
Yeah.
know, that's why it's really hard to, you know, really compare Marvel to DC, because honestly, it's two different. It's like just two different universes.
Well, and it almost seems like it's perfect fitting that Disney takes Marvel and HBO Max takes DC.
Yeah.
Just, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
HBO Max ain't gonna have their name on anything here before long.
Yeah.
And like, can I just make like one final point to this discussion that,
Yeah.
or I mean, not final, but just another one. But you know, like a lot of well-respected names in Hollywood, like Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, they hate these superhero movies.
Mhm.
Now, hold on, I'm not agreeing with them, Greg.
Oh no,
what
no,
I'm,
I know.
what I'm saying is that if you look at Joaquin Phoenix and the Joker, like, dude, superhero villain movie or not, that was an Oscar-worthy performance.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. It took place in the confines of like a superhero story. To me, you can kind of erase those criticisms if you decide to tell more mature superhero stories. And by the way, I'm not even just meaning like hardcore blood and gore and violence, you know, like just mature stories that are meant for adults. To me, that could be like the superhero movie's way of answering to these criticisms that they're just these CGI jerk off fest with all these different graphics and big time names. You know, it's a way to really kind of put themselves in a different realm compared to their competition. Like, hey, if you want to make a gajillion dollars, yeah, go be a part of the Marvel universe. However, if you want to make a lot of money, but also potentially win awards in the process, come on over to DC.
I heard
But I don't know,
Martin might have had there were talks about him being involved in the Joker.
Who?
Martin Scorsese, like in the beginning, there was talks of like him being a producer or something, but eventually fell through. He didn't do it.
All those arguments are they fall on deaf ears. They don't, because you know we live in a population, but their problem with the arguments are that the written story is what the issue comes down to,
Mhm.
and it's very, it is probably not the right word, but it's very elitist to make that kind of argument, to feel like you're gatekeeping storytelling because it comes out in a comic book versus like a story that you create to tell something else. And I mean, like I don't think that what they're trying to argue is very void of. I think that it is very void of like consciousness. Like they're just not doing a good job thinking about their argument, because it stems from jealousy of the fact that these movies are blowing everything else out and making money, and that can be its own thing. But when you sit there and say that there's no context, no depth, no anything that you wanted to say about it, I'm like, that's not true at all. Because as much as you say that like Marvel is bright, look how they were able to bring that brightness into almost a sense of base of reality to tell a story live action. And DC doing the same thing in a different way. I don't like using DC a whole lot as a barometer, because I struggle with their success in storytelling on the big screen, and I want them to do a lot better. I've always said I would champion them 100% if they do better, and hopefully we get better from Gunn and Safran if they work together to create something better. But when you start throwing all these big names into it, and you start having all these arguments, like I just think that they fall on deaf ears.
Yeah. My absolute thing is Quentin Tarantino wasn't so much like Scorsese just poo-poos on comic book movies, like you were talking about.
Mhm.
And some
He's probably never
comic books
seen one too.
yeah, right. And some of those comics are some of the greatest stories ever told. Quentin Tarantino, his specific gripe is that nowadays production studios sometimes they're only willing to give big budgets and take bets on movies that have superhero stories because they have a built-in fan base and they're trying to attract those people into the theater. So that way you might have an obscure film that maybe in the 80s or 90s could have blown up to be a big-time movie if you're taking a chance on it. Whereas now studios are like, nah, this comic book property is available. and there's a built-in fan base and audience. So
Well, people
just
went to
to
go
kinda
see movies back
differentiate.
then.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
And the difference is now is comics are so much more acceptable in today's day.
That's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
Like so comic book movies, people are, were
Dan's
wanting to do-
comment, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of it's a change in the regime, and Tim was talking about in the chat that a lot of superhero movies lack depth and are very predictable, and he's right. I can name a lot of them that don't, but he comes back and he says it's kind of like 1 out of every 10 or 15 movies. Like there are a lot of good movies, but not all of them have that depth. They don't pull at the heartstrings. There are certain Marvel and DC movies that I can go back and watch now and still almost cry in scenes that I know are coming up.
Dude,
Yeah.
I can
That's
list
the kind of
like
movie
I
you
don't know
want.
how many where I've like cried.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
yeah.
I don't know how many times I've said, Endgame. It took me 3 times to watch it before I could keep a dry eye.
Yeah.
But I will say this about the filmmaking too. There's different types of filmmakers, and there's different types of audiences. Because honestly, when it comes up to like the Oscars, majority of the time, the films that they nominate, I've never heard of.
Right.
These are the type of films that Scorsese's gonna push, or I mean, everybody has a different interest, and to not give any validity to superhero films is not fair, because there's different genres. People have different. Hey, I love to go just watch just a mindless movie sometimes, and then sometimes I want to see something that makes you think or whatnot. I don't particularly want to go see something that makes me feel awful. I mean, that's just me. That's why I'm not a big horror fan. But and that's why a lot of times when I hear these arguments from these Oscar award-winning filmmakers, and I'm like, it's not fair. It's not fair to make those assumptions.
Right.
You can
Somebody
somebody
so
made
many they're just
sorry.
absolutely crazy. B and C movies that come out of nowhere that shake your world. I'm gonna tell you right now, Idiocracy sticks to me to this day because of how real that movie is, and where we are going as a population on this world.
It gets better
is
with
old.
time.
Yeah, it was not a fantastic movie, but it's really all about what you pull out of these things.
Right.
And to sit there and say something like, these movies shouldn't be up for, contest, whatever. Look,
I was gonna say,
that just means you're out of touch.
Somebody made a comparison to the superhero movies of today to the, I think it was 60s, I believe, Western movies. They were constantly making Western movies, so they knew they were going to be hits, and they were cheap to make.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. And I think when it comes down to in a lot of superhero movies, as far as directing and acting, and it's not the absolute, but it definitely does stand out a lot of times, is there are, and this goes into what Dan was saying about fans too, watching. There are the ones who have either A, never read a comic, or B, the ones who have read the comic for the part or that they're going to be acting or directing. Then there are the ones who actually genuinely like this stuff, have read it in their lives, have history and love for these things. So playing this is a passion, and you can see it throughout characters and directing in these movies. Now, like I said, it's not the absolute, but it's a definite thing. I mean, you got to be passionate about what you're doing with these kind of films. The best part about having these superhero movies is you get a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. You have a completion. There's a mission. You have a goal to accomplish. Like you have something to strive for. It's not just aimless storytelling. Not saying that Tarantino and Scorsese movies are just aimless storytelling, but you kind of get what I'm saying here. It's a little easier to follow something like that. Maybe the general audience doesn't want to always follow something that's so deep. A lot of times we just want something that's pretty and fun to watch. So
look, a lot of people.
Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special.
Still haven't watched it.
A lot of people weren't a big fan of the
watch
Thor movie, but like I said, it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Look, that's all that I needed. I needed just a good. I don't care. Like a lot of people really shit on Phase 4 all the time. It's not that big of a deal. These things come out so rapid and fast now that I don't expect them all to be masterpieces.
He almost won an Oscar for Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, he did. He was nominated.
You probably should have, to be honest with you.
I'm a dude.
That is such a good movie.
He lost
by the way, that movie probably doesn't get made today.
No,
no,
not at all.
Robert Downey Jr. in blackface. Come on, dude.
But what's funny is people keep on bringing up Robert Downey Jr. Character, but nobody brings up Ben Stiller for Simple Jack.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
He gets away
Yeah.
scot-free because of Robert Downey Jr.
Dude,
True.
that's such a good movie. Dude. I loved
And
it
Tom
so
Cruise
much.
at the end. I mean, the Tom Cruise bit was
Yeah.
funny. And I'm
yeah.
not even a
Yeah.
big
I
fan
still
of
can't
Tom
believe I've
Cruise.
watched that movie.
I love that movie.
It's
Yeah.
such a good movie, dude. Like one of the best ever.
Ooh, 10 asks if there's a Thor movie we would say has depth. I think that I think that all of them had a little bit of depth. The first one with him and his father, the second one with him and his mother. So there was a little bit of depth to all those movies, and then the third one.
Look, I'm going to tell you, I
Hmm.
think that the third one had
Ragnarok?
depth because it was him dealing with things in a way that he
Right.
was trying to laugh it off. It's
Right.
literally depression in a way that the way that he's handling with it is completely different, and you see that in Infinity War.
Yeah.
You see that peril, that scene where he's talking to Rocket and talking about how literally the past 2 weeks he's lost everyone in his life.
It's one of the toughest
That-
stories
that's-
in the whole thing. Yeah.
That's a moment.
There's a moment in Ragnarok when Loki and Thor's in the elevator, and Loki says, "You really think that low of me, brother?"
Yep.
It's like, I thought the world of you.
Yep.
I thought you should have been you by my side.
Yeah.
I think Chris Hemsworth as Thor is fantastic. You know, a lot of people complain about Taika and how he treats Thor, and I get it. Like I don't want to say I see past all of the superficial humor that they try to throw in there because I see that that's there, but at the same time, I also see the other side of the story that's in there. You know, same thing for Love and Thunder. Like Love and Thunder, like it hits you if you pick up on the parts of it that are meant to be bombs. You know, the whole spin on his relationship. You know, that whole flashback scene in Love and Thunder when him and what was Jane, when they were dating and like how it didn't work, like
Right.
that
When
whole
they fell
thing
apart.
real. I mean, like, and even
Yeah.
for being like a Norse god, you know, the whole fact is that they laugh about it and like, you know, they turn it into a humorous movie, but at the same time, like it's got storytelling in it.
So Ken's asking about depthness in movies, and I think he's raising a good point. Is like there are deep parts in a lot of different movies, but like none of the movies are really, really deep. There are some that are. I would say Endgame is a pretty deep movie. It's got Infinity War is pretty deep. I always will say Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, but once again, like he says, this is one out of a few. There's not every movie is not going to be like a really deep thinker movie,
And you can't make them all that way because
No.
once again, I go back to my default answer, which is they want kids to be able to watch this stuff. They need it to push the story along so that they keep getting asses in seats to make money because they are successful at that.
And the budgets of these movies are ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Dan Floyd says
sorry.
Thor is a
What'd you
tragic
say?
story. Oh yeah, no, you can take
My
it over. He says Thor is a tragic story, but you know that comedy that he has does kind of counterbalance his tragic story. So yeah, that's a good point. And Ross, like you brought up, it's a way of him coping with everything going on.
Ragnarok was my favorite Thor. I feel like every other one was just kind of like
Nah, when he comes in Infinity War,
Infinity War,
Wakanda,
definitely.
that's the best Thor right there. That right there is
Yeah.
Thor.
I just mean like solo Thor
Movies.
movies. Yeah.
What I
Ragnarok.
love about the detail in that though is all the way down to the jacked up haircut. They gave him a lightning bolt in the side of his head, and when he shows up, and then when he comes down after such a powerful scene, he's sitting there shooting jokes back and forth with Captain America. You know, like he stole my look. You know, and it's like
Yeah.
it all just works.
Yeah. And Tim, you're right. They don't have to make them super deep, but yeah, you're right. They won't win a lot of Oscars, but I think they are making a category just for superhero movies. Like, just
I think
that way we
this
offer respect.
like popular choice. I think it's.
Yeah, which is going to be
They're
all superhero
definitely
movies, probably.
the Academy is getting booed in that arena.
I mean, does anybody watch
Oh, well.
the Oscars anymore?
No.
I look on the internet to see who won something that it's the
Exactly.
movie that I've heard of the next day.
Every time the Oscars are trending, it's like the Oscars are so racist, or the Oscars.
Yeah, so it's
It's always
bad.
bad.
Right.
yeah. It's like it's never good publicity.
Or Will Smith smacking somebody.
Yeah.
Like,
dude,
now that
it's
was
crazy.
entertainment. Yeah, that's one of those things that I didn't see it that night, and the next day people are joking about it, and like I have no idea what they're talking about, so I have to go just Google Will Smith, and immediately you know what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
I also didn't see it that night, but the whole world
Well,
saw it.
I'll circle this whole entire conversation back to the other thing Henry Cavill talked about. And Sarah, go ahead. You sent it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Lead it off.
She perked up.
Oh, you're talking about like his little Warhammer?
I don't think his Warhammer is little. If you wanted me to
Whoa!
have that conversation.
We'll just leave that to imagination.
It's average. It's average.
But no, if you follow Cavill on like Instagram or any of his things, he's always putting up there about either he's building freaking gaming computers. That's the one thing, because he's like a avid gamer, and then also he's always up there with these little Warhammer figures, these little figurines that he actually paints. And I remember there was like was it Piers Morgan? No. Who's the other English guy that always has that has the other show? It's not Piers Morgan. It's the other guy.
James Corden.
Is it Gordon?
James Corden.
It's another one where it's it's pretty little racy show or whatnot. But he had actually was interviewing Cavill and asked him about this. He's like, well, you have all these little figurines that you paint. He's like, what do you do with them? He's like, I set them up and battle people. It's just like, he's so nerdy, and it's just so endearing. So after you hear all this news about, him not putting the cape on again, and then you see this he shared something about that now he's in the process of working on a Warhammer project. And I'm thinking, of all the passion projects you have to have out there, this is what I was waiting to hear. I'm like, just bring this to life, dude. I don't know in what form or fashion, but it's kind of like, yay, it's a little bright spot for him. So can't remember exactly. I think it's just they're trying to look, like production, just trying to get something in the works. But I just thought it was really interesting, considering the fact that that's literally like his hobby.
It is. Like a lot of people are into that, and my Warhammer depth is very shallow.
Yeah.
But what I do know about it
Same.
is that people are deep into that universe.
Yeah.
I don't think that there are. I think it's one of those things that when you're in it, you get all the way in it, because it has countless video games. Like when 4K was released, man, like people were all over it. Like it ran timelines, and I don't even follow that stuff.
It's been out since I was like in middle school.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It goes back a long way.
There's because there's so many variations of like the gaming and the universe and everything else. Like if you get a chance to actually see any of this, any of the cutscenes for this, like just to jump into it, like you're amazed instantly. And for him to just, here's the thing, is it because he has too much free time on his hands? Is this something that he's really been planning and thinking about how he's going to make happen? But I'm cool with it if he's got the devotion towards these things. And like you said, when he's off screen, like he's nerdy. And so I'm completely cool with him trying to bring something like this to life. He gets into these universes, and man, he's all over it. That's like the whole Geralt thing. To me, I understand where he's coming from. When you want to separate yourself from showmakers, showrunners, whatever the case may be, who are putting something out there that you're not happy with, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, too, like you're also there, and if the show's still going, regardless if it's just a paycheck, you should try to give it your all. And I hate him leaving. I hate him leaving The Witcher because of that. But if he's gonna put everything that he has into Warhammer, I'm amazed. Like I want to see what's gonna happen, because I don't understand how you do it, and make it like worth it in the end, money wise, budget wise. But the gates are like wide open. No one has touched it.
Right.
The people that have get shot down all the time. There's a difference between something like a show or a movie being in production. In production means anything. It just means that it has not been shut off, boxed, put away, cold storage. It can be in production for years before we ever see anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
what is Warhammer? I've never heard of this.
It's a video game. It's a MMORPG, massively multiplayer online RPG.
Oh, that's why I never heard.
And one of the reasons
I
why
hate those games.
one of the reasons why it hasn't been made is because, dude, video game adaptations, they normally suck a big one. Like
Halo.
when you're going from like taking a story and a set of characters from one medium that is literally by its nature interactive, then going to a movie, making it where the viewer has no input whatsoever. You think that it would be easier than it is, but dude, no one does it right. That's
Mhm.
why
I think-
That's why Arcane is such a breath of fresh air, because not only did it
Successful.
accurately adapt League of Legends lore, but it actually did it in a way that's compelling, that you're like, oh, I could see this living in a world of its own, completely outside of the video game from now on. You know?
Yeah,
So
I think video
Yeah.
games don't make great movies, but they can make great TV shows.
yes, yeah.
Better
You're about to
animated,
get
yeah.
trial and error on that whole entire thing right now. let me
Yes,
tell you.
we are.
Yeah. I liked Halo. I didn't think they did a bad job with that one.
Well, I was thinking
Yeah.
of The Last of Us is supposed to be coming out.
Oh
Mm.
yeah,
There's
that
so
comes
much.
out soon.
Mm.
Yeah, it comes
Yeah,
out
I'm
January.
excited for that.
Well, it's just like Dungeons and Dragons. It's difficult because I remember, God, how long ago was it they released that one
Super
D&D
Mario
movie? And now
Brothers.
they got another one coming out.
Yeah.
It's like, how the hell can you
No.
make a movie with that? Because it's just because that
Yeah.
world is so wide open.
But
It's really
also-
difficult
No,
to.
World of Warcraft was the movie that came out.
Yeah,
Now
that's
they've
the one
been-
I was
Yeah,
trying to
the
think
movies.
of. Yeah.
Well, and they've been trying to make a Dungeons and Dragons D&D. Like the literal players create the characters and campaign. So it's
Mhm.
not like there is a central story
Yeah,
that you would follow
exactly.
anyway. So
Right.
even World of Warcraft, they did make a World of Warcraft movie.
hmm
And
I still want
and,
to see a
like,
Bioshock movie or series.
I think they're creating something like that, aren't they?
I've been hearing it for like the last 10 years.
now BioShock, dude, give me a BioShock show on HBO Max. And
I feel
I'm
like
down.
that's in production. That's in process or something.
I've been hearing it for like 5 years. They've been talking about a TV show, TV show. Or just,
Um,
See, Panda says Sonic was great.
Sonic was a good movie.
It was. Jim Carrey.
I'm not
was
gonna lie.
good in that
I
movie.
enjoyed, Jim
still
Carrey
haven't-
made that movie. Yeah.
I still haven't seen the whole thing. I need to watch it.
Hey, I do want to bring up a couple things in the chat here, though. Is like I said,
Mhm.
Sonic. He said was a great superhero movie or superhero.
Video game.
Video game movie. Yeah. So Panda asked, here, unpopular opinion, wants Henry Cavill to play Doctor Doom in the MCU. That's an interesting cast, especially because he'd be wearing a mask a lot of times whenever he was Doctor Doom. But I could see him pulling that role off. I don't think he's incapable of it, but it'd be interesting. Then he asked, who's our next pick for Cal? I've been thinking about this for days. I really have, and I honestly don't know who. The only person I could think of that I know could probably do a good job is what's the guy who was in Tyler, the one who was in the TV shows that was like the Arrowverse as Superman.
Tyler Hoechlin.
Yes, he did a good job.
I had his
I like
name,
Superman.
I think. What about the dude from Titans?
Have we seen Superman in
Connor?
Titans? Are you talking about Connor, the one
Are
who
you
plays
talking about
Superboy?
Superboy?
Yeah.
He could. Yeah, you're right. He could
Well,
play a
he's
good
got
young
identity crisis
Superman.
right now.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna throw a name into the hat. Luke Kuechly. Well, let's go. That's
There you
what
go.
I'm
I could see
Well, we
that
already
people
have our
doing
Thor, so I mean, can he be our?
there's a height
Superman?
requirement. He needs to be a little bit taller.
it. That's true. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, they, can,
right.
they can fix that. Yeah.
Although
Um,
Luke is like 6'3", he's like the perfect Superman.
Yeah.
No, go get Nick Cage. Let's
He'll
see
take the
this
role.
movie.
He'll take it.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down.
The
And
movie
then-
that got canceled.
Have you
Yeah,
ever
that
seen
was
the
supposed
pictures
to
of him in the
Yes.
suit?
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what I was
yeah.
about to say. Have you seen the
Dude,
photos?
it's-
Holy cow!
Like,
They made a
the pictures of him in the
documentary
suit's
about
crazy.
that movie. Or
Dude,
that
I
show.
Not
wish
only
I
that-
was Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that Dracula movie too. The shots I saw side by side between him playing Dracula and him playing Superman, and it was absolutely hilarious. Like the widespread of that character, of that actor, is ridiculous.
Panda says Netflix is making a Bioshock series.
I was about to look it up. I just saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
So,
keep
wow.
going.
All right.
Okay.
I'm telling you, dude.
All right.
I've already
I'm
got.
down.
I keep saying it because, like I said,
Oh,
you know
Sarah
that
said
we're
that.
in the age. We got Halo, we got the other one's escaping me, but we're about to get The Last of Us. We're about to get Horizon Zero Dawn is in making.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Borderlands is still talking about a movie.
If it has a fan base, they're going to make it into something.
Yeah.
I'm with
I don't know
Kevin,
how
though.
far.
I want to see TV shows rather than movies.
Yeah.
I just think that it makes for the long form storytelling. It makes that transition easier, in my opinion.
But that's
Maybe.
also why we're about to get another writer's strike.
Yeah.
Here's like the problem with making all of these things so fast is
Freaking
that
writers.
they don't look. I understand where they're coming from. When you start making these shows that are 8 to 10 episodes long, and you don't have the girth of House of the Dragon, when you don't have like all of that backing and nostalgia that comes with it, you have to create these things on paper, and it's difficult when all you're going to do is get real short episode work. Shows used to be 23 episodes a season.
Mm-hmm.
There used to
like
be
8.
one season a year. These people used to make, most of their money working on that one show throughout the whole year, and you can't do that anymore. Streaming has completely changed the game.
You get paid with reruns too. Like I don't know how they do it.
Mm-hmm. Actually, the Panda said in the chat that another game that would be awesome to portray into live action, which is a game I love, is the Metal Gear series, and that Kiefer Sutherland would make a great Solid Snake. He would maybe 15 years ago. Kiefer Sutherland's getting pretty old.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who would make a good Snake though is the guy who played Deathstroke in Titans. Morales, what's his name? I can't. He would make a good Snake.
He's getting old too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
he's all over
pushing for a video game movie. What was that video game?
He was
Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid.
Gears of War.
Batista would be. Yeah, he could be God of War.
I think it was Gears 100%. Of War.
Was it Gears of War?
I think so. He's been wanting to do a Gears of War movie. He said.
Yeah.
But see, like that's a good video game, but to me, it's not a good story. To me, it's not even a story worth adapting.
Hey,
like,
listen, we got a Rampage movie. I don't care.
What was the one that what was the one Spider-Man was in? I keep wanting to say Lost, but it's not Lost. He was in a video game movie.
Oh, Uncharted.
Uncharted, yes. Yeah.
It took me a minute. I was like, I was thinking Tobey Maguire for some reason.
Yeah.
But if they ever do a Metal Gear Solid, Hideo Kojima has to be a part of it. Like he's the creator of that series, and he's like the video game version of Quentin Tarantino. Like this dude did revolutionary shit for story and video games. He's incredible. I look up to that dude. Better slow what down? Yo, Tintizzy talking shit.
Hey, I think we've just chased squirrels the longest we ever have on this show. We started talking news about an hour and 20 minutes ago.
And there's probably still more to talk about.
Anything and everything, comics and movies.
It's literally in the name of the podcast. It's okay.
There you go.
We haven't caught one squirrel, dude. What the hell?
Yeah, no, we never will. I don't want to. You can't chase them.
Dude.
No. But wrapping it around back to the news, because I know we're going to talk about Game of Thrones for probably at least an hour. So, is there anything else, any news wise, anything anybody else wants to bring up? Because if not, we'll pop into the next segment.
I got nothing.
I'm only.
Sarah, go ahead, Ross.
I want to ask one question, and that is, if you could put words to it, because I'm interested where people's mindset is with this. What is your current outlook on what James Gunn could give you? Like, you can say cautiously optimistic all day long, but where do you think he's going to go?
I'm very, very excited. I love James Gunn's work. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's going to make it all funny and funny. The Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad, those movies were made to be funny. Like the comic books were wacky and kind of violent. He got to start doing horror movies. And he did produce Brightburn and stuff like that. I think these comic books or the movies he's going to put out is going to be very comic accurate. And I think I'm very excited for him.
It's look, Panda says in the chat the rebirth arc, the new 52, JSA, JLA, that would be an interesting way to go. It just depends on where they start in this universe, to be honest, to be truly honest with you. Because I think that while there are, I mean, DC does Crisis series, and Crisis series are like universe changing events, you know, like the Flashpoint, the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, Identity Crisis. All these ones are like ones that change the entire universe. I think they're resetting the DC universe with their first Crisis and Flashpoint. From there, I think they should follow a new 52 arc or a rebirth arc. And really, they should follow a new 52 arc, and then you can always do a Crisis again and do right into the rebirth arc. Because the new 52 only lasted a few years before they rebooted everything again. But I really don't know where they're going. I'm just, you said it perfect, optimistically cautious. I think that James Gunn has the ability to do a really good job. I just don't know where he's going to go. Like, I don't want the entire universe to be Suicide Squad. You know, I like Suicide Squad. I don't want the entire universe to be Suicide Squad. That's my only thing. I'm not saying it's going to be. I think
he's not
do
making
a really good job.
You have to remember that.
That's the other thing. He's not making everything, but he is the guy behind the wheel.
Yeah.
So it's going to have his touch on it, you know. But I don't know. It's just interesting. I think the new 52 or Rebirth is the best way to start. I don't think you should go way back to Origins of Superman, Origins of Batman, all that kind of stuff. Just bring the characters in here and introduce them and let's go. Or if you're going to redo their origin, do it like Marvel did. Modernize the origin story. Like
That's
Iron
what
Man.
I think that they need to do 100%.
Yeah.
I think that you need to find a way to... It's just like anything else when it comes to this comic book stuff. You have your heroes, you have your villains, you have plot lines. Take the plot lines, yank on the strings and see what pops out.
Mm-hmm.
You can create anything. Yeah, I know. You can laugh at it all day long, but it basically is what they're doing. All that you do is just take the story and, like, how can you stretch it? How can you make it something that's actually interesting? And so what I worry about is how convoluted is it going to get between the directors that they bring in and the cohesion of the stories that they're trying to tell, because I think that's what people's problem is right now with Marvel. And I said it in our group chat. Normally the person or the first of anything that comes out and makes a big hit and a big smash normally isn't the one that withstands the test of time. Mm-hmm. Because people can come out and find a different way to do it better or to do it differently and to change it up completely. And so people are going to find flaws in the MCU stuff. DC has a very ample opportunity to do things their own way, but at the same time, take their time with it. And I don't want the story to get convoluted. I want it to be very well done. And as long as James Gunn can hold all of that together while making, I think he said that he's going to make, as of now, he's got like 3 movie deals with them to direct his own movies, but it's all going to be in the same universe. So, like, I'm not really worried about what James Gunn is going to do. I'm just worried that my biggest concern would be anything getting out of control, spitting off the rails, because that's their MO to this point.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I think they need to do. They need to bring in fresh characters that people have been craving for. I need to see a Blue Beetle. I need to see a Green Lantern. I need to see these characters that are other than the just 7 Justice League members, even though they haven't shown Green Lantern yet. Mm-hmm. Like, other than these members, I want to see I want to see a Nightwing. I want to see a good live action Robin. I want to see a Batgirl. I want to see I think Zoe did a great job with Catwoman in the Batman movie, but I want to see a good Catwoman. And like, there's a lot of things that they haven't tapped into in the DC universe that it's just rich with story, with characters that are fantastic to talk about. And I just want to see it,
They were supposed to make a New Gods movie.
Yeah, that would be interesting. You'd have to introduce a lot of different characters for that. But I think that was, what's her name, a long time ago.
Angela something, Duvray.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's long been gone, I believe. That was part of the Snyderverse stuff.
To quickly answer Ross's question, to make an analogy, Ross, I'll make a football analogy. It's kind of like... Yeah, I know, right? How crazy. It's kind of like you've had a coach that you went 7-9 with for the last 3 years. You've had some good games, but you've never had anything to put you over the edge.
Mhm.
And I think it's now you have a new owner, or not a new owner, you have a new GM, you have a new head coach. And even though you have some good things, like you want to build the team an image now.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, like the only way that I really know James Gunn is obviously through Guardians of the Galaxy, and I really like those films. I don't necessarily know what kind of aesthetic he intends to bring to the DCEU, but I think that just like a brand new GM or head coach, you have to give them their chance.
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm not mad at them doing a clean slate, saying, "Okay, thanks Henry, thanks Gal for all your work. Ezra, hope you don't land yourself in prison or whatever."
He probably
You
will.
know?
Let's get him out of his cell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Out of his
you know,
DC
but
protection.
we're gonna go in a different direction. Is it risky? Yes. But could it potentially pay off big if done right? Yes. I think if anyone could do it, I think it's probably James Gunn. So,
You ever seen the movie Super with the dude from The Office?
I don't think
yeah,
so.
and it's like he tries to be a legit superhero.
That's a James Gunn movie, yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh.
Dude, I didn't even know that was a James Gunn movie.
Yeah.
Dude, I forgot all about that movie. That's a great movie, man.
Hmm.
Didn't it have
I'll check
the girl in it too?
Oh, yeah, Juno chick who's
Yeah.
now a dude. What-
Yeah. She but dude, that was a fucking awesome movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm
You
even
seen
more
the guy
hopeful
from The
about
Office?
James
Who was in
Gunn.
it from The Office? The background, like the quiet guy?
No, he's the what's his name? The one that's always annoying, Jim.
Oh, Rand Wilson.
Yeah,
Ron Wilson, yeah.
No.
Yeah, James
Ryan
Gunn
Wilson.
did Peacemaker, right?
yeah. He did.
Oh, yeah.
He did.
In fact-
Peacemaker,
then-
Suicide Squad. Yeah.
I would be
I-
excited.
I
would
love the
be
Suicide
excited.
Squad. I know you
I
did.
love
Greg. I love
Peacemaker.
it.
I didn't hate them. They just weren't my favorite movies. Now, Peacemaker, the show, I love.
Yeah, I loved it.
Peacemaker series.
Yeah,
That was
I did too.
fantastic. Fantastic.
That was my favorite DC thing to date that like was outside of the movies.
Yeah, honestly, it's right up there. To be truly honest with you, but that was
I was
movie
surprised by
adjacent. It's
John.
outside the movies.
I didn't want to like John Cena that much.
I didn't either, but I did.
I didn't either. I was like, oh, Cena, really? All
That's
right.
the guy I'm thinking of.
He didn't sell me in the movie. He sold me in the show, though. That was the thing. I didn't
Yeah.
like him coming out of
Yeah.
the movie, but I love the show.
I had so many apprehensions about that show coming out, and like, why would they do it? But when it came out,
Do you really, really want to taste it? That's the question.
Exactly.
You know? You
Dude, I
really
had that
want to.
song stuck in my head for months after that show finished.
Ashley
That's a
wanted to learn the
great
dance.
song.
She was like, "We got to learn this dance," and I was like, "You can learn this dance. I'm not learning this dance."
And you should do it and put it on TikTok and go viral.
I love that their manager quit right before they picked that song up, the band.
Oh, really?
So they got all that
bittersweet.
money.
That was like a 10-year-old song, though, isn't it? It's like a really, really old song.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So not really, really old. 10
Dude,
years.
that's
not
a
really old,
hardcore
but
song,
it's
dude. How
It
you not
is.
like that song?
It is. Oh, all right. Well, let's wrap up the news, y'all. We're getting deep into it here. It's been a long show. We've had some really good conversation about it, though. Sarah, was there anything else you wanted news-wise? Because I know you weren't going to stick with us for the Game of Thrones talk.
I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah, we covered just about everything. all
really
the
anything
stuff.
else.
The
I mean-
news, the wants, the desires, everything. So, well, okay. Well, I will give you an out then. Still haven't watched the Game of Thrones, which is fine. There's plenty of stuff I hadn't watched, but still recommend checking it out. But Sarah, where can you
Sarah,
find you?
please watch Game of Thrones.
You'll love it.
I'll give you the puppy dog eyes. Pretty please.
I'll take that into consideration. No, you got you. Everybody can find me on the Twitter at My Little Kitten. I bounce around on Instagram, bounce around on TikTok. I mean, you know, I'm around. But other than that, you know, you guys can always find me here Friday nights. I'm always the lone lady with all the fellas, which I have no
Yes.
problem with. So
Oh shit! You bring your knowledge to the table. I don't even want to hear it.
I know it's always funny because I always get Cody. He's always like, "Hey, what's up, fellas? Oh, hey, Sarah, you too." So I'm like, "Okay, I got you."
From now on, I'm only saying hi to Sarah.
There you go.
But no,
I'm fine with that.
but yeah, a lot of you fellas, I'll catch up with you guys probably Sunday because hopefully
gonna
it'll
get
be
close.
a celebration and not a straight therapy session, so I'm kind of looking forward to that.
We're about to get in a therapy session right now.
Oh yeah, we're about to
Greg.
start a therapy session.
But I'll
Oh, my
leave you
gosh.
fellas to your Game of Thrones love fest. So good night, fellas, and I will talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Yes, sir.
Sarah.
All right, bye.
See you, Sarah.
Night.
So there you go. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it down. 10 says it's been great. The chat and the to and fro, everything I want to hear about besides football. So cheers. Oh, I appreciate it. This
what
show
we
is
do.
basically C3 Panthers podcast, but about movies, television shows. So that
Yeah.
was not the goal. So, all right, down to business. This will be the last week we talk about Game of Thrones. I watched about half the series first time we talked. I watched all the way up till there were 3 episodes left the last time we talked. Now I've watched the whole thing, and we got to talk. Okay. Now we're going to try to stick. We can go anywhere we want to, but let's try to stick most of this conversation to like the last season. 6 episodes. I had watched the first 3 episodes last time. That was all the way up through the long night. Okay. Definitely noticed a difference in writing. Definitely noticed that the story is kind of rushed. Like we talked about these kind of things before, but I didn't mind it up to that point. I do think the long night should have been after they took care of the stuff in King's Landing. I think they did that reversal. Or they did that wrong. But either way, that's neither here nor there. I didn't think that when people told me that the ending was terrible and I was going to hate it, I was like, well, maybe I'll dislike it, but I'm sure I can get by it. I know it's going to be bad. I can get by it. No, it's bad. It's really, really
It's
bad.
so fucking bad.
Me and my wife, my kids were at school. I had the day off. My wife had the morning off. We were like, let's sit down and watch the rest of this. So we're laying down in bed and we get halfway through. I think it's The Bells is the name of the episode. Like the first part of the second half of the season. And it's just so funny because my wife's like, if I was going to cosplay somebody, I could definitely do Daenerys. I like Daenerys a lot. And I was like, yeah, I could see you doing that. And after this episode, she was like, nope, never going to happen. Never,
Dude.
ever going to happen. She went from loving this character to absolutely hating her. And she looked at me, she was like, what the hell is going on?
Greg, think about in like 2012 and 13, there was a boom in people naming their daughter Daenerys.
Yeah.
Khaleesi.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, imagine now your daughter's name is associated with that Stark Craven bitch. Like, what? Come on, dude.
What was she doing? Like, okay, like I get that, like you said, they were given endpoints of where they wanted everybody to be. But like, it just felt like they took the laziest, sloppiest ways to get there. Like the writing that I saw made absolutely no sense. Like the entire thing Daenerys is fighting for the whole time is just like that she has right there in front of her. She's won the city. They've given up. And she still decides to torch everybody. And I was like, really? They did this?
For no reason.
The fight with the Hound and the Mountain, man. I'm looking forward to this the whole damn series. And it was an okay fight. But then in the end of it, really, you just dive into him and knock him off the edge and you both die. I'm like, oh. And then Cersei's death. You're telling me nobody got the satisfaction of sticking a knife in this bitch? For real?
Oh, yeah.
Like she's going to die getting crumbled under some rocks trying to escape. Come on. And then, more to the point, they got crumbled, like crushed by these rocks. And then when Tyrion finds them, they're like, takes like 2 rocks off, and there's their bodies still fully formed, not smashed or ruined or anything, just laying there. And I'm like, well, okay. Like, of all Game of Thrones things, that seems unreal.
He
Like, they should've
needed the
smashed them
perfect
up really
pile
bad.
to dig up to.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so stupid. And of course, Tyrion finds them.
right. Because he had to get through the little spot that only a dwarf could get through, I would imagine.
Like
So
they
that was rough.
literally took the best characters in the entire show, and they killed them with their writing.
Yep.
They killed them with their. Daenerys was a freer of slaves. She would crucify the slave masters. She would never kill innocent people. That's part of the reason why people loved her characters.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, like you said, she's won. Nah, fuck it. Let's torch the whole town.
I have my
The whole
theories.
city. All the people in it. Oh, what? All because she snapped? What? She went crazy because she's a Targaryen? Like, they did absolutely... They tried to justify it with, oh, they killed her dragons. Which, by the way, how do you fucking forget about the fleet of enemy warships that you know have these dragon bolts? Okay, they killed your dragon. But then on top of that, like, dude,
She could have just flown around behind him, torched him.
Yeah, dude, it was, and then like after Missandei and they Missandei, it's like, dude, you know that they're setting up to do this stupid thing the entire time, which is like, hey, when you hear the bells, the battle's over, you've won, they've given up, and it's like you knew before this shit was going to do it, and it was just so disappointing. The only thing yeah,
good.
Well, I mean, like the only thing Jon Snow isn't good for is saying, "I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't like." And then Tyrion becomes the dumbest character in the show. Dude, I'm all over the place now. I just, it's so
no. Speak on it, man. Because like I said, this thing really got me. Like, just we'll blurt out points we hated. Like the whole Jon Snow killing Daenerys thing.
Yeah.
Like I didn't like that. I saw it coming. That was one thing I saw, is that he's gonna kill her. You know, and then the dragon just takes her away.
Bye
bye.
I have a theory why the end is the same way, or how it ended.
Good.
I think they realized that he's not going to finish these fucking books, and so they kind of asked him, "Hey, where are the ending points?" And I think he told them Daenerys is going to burn down King's Landing, Jon Snow is going to kill Daenerys, and Bran's going to sit on the Iron Throne. And the showrunners were like, "All right, well, we have to figure out how we get there," and they just kind of fucked it all up.
Yeah, they really, really did. Like I said, my wife looked at me like, she said, "What are we watching?" Like these last 3 episodes didn't ruin this show for me, but it's like I was telling Nathan today, we were talking about it, because as soon as I told him I finished it, he called me and we talked about it for a while. And it's his favorite show, and I understand that because it's an amazing show. I can't say it's my favorite show because of the ending. It's one of my favorite shows. The ending didn't ruin the show for me, but it did knock it off the tier of me saying it's the best show I've ever seen. Because there's been plenty of shows I've seen that have been phenomenal all the way through, you know, that are not necessarily fantasy related. Breaking Bad, Shameless,
endings
stuff
are
like
tough
that.
for
You know,
mini shows.
endings are tough for
They
big
are.
shows.
They're so tough.
I had mentioned to my wife, like the last season, like things were just so predictable. Like there were certain things that were so predictable. I didn't see the Daenerys thing come burning the city. Like I didn't see that coming. I was like, wow, that really surprised me. Maybe that's what threw me off of that. One way they could have really surprised everybody that nobody saw it coming was replace Arya killing the Night King. Do it the exact same way, but have Hot Pie do it. Imagine Hot Pie. Yeah, imagine Hot Pie flying in the exact same way, flying in with the knife, gets in the chokehold. Yeah, just imagine, man. It would have been great. Nobody would have saw that coming. Right? See, I could write this.
No,
you definitely would have written a better ending than what they managed to write. Yeah. That's easy. Like there are so many plot lines that they just left completely unanswered. Well, like
okay.
No, like you remember early in season, I think 2, where Daenerys met that chick with like the red and gold stuff on her face. Like in the book, her name is Quaithe. I don't even know if it ever said that in the show, but like that's a whole plot point that they abandoned.
Did you say Quaithe?
Yeah, Quaithe.
I thought it's just waif.
But there's so many plot points that they just kind of abandoned, and like they had no idea what they're doing. And to me, like the character assassination was Tyrion. Like literally in the start of the show, and I said this last time, Tyrion is a genius character.
Yeah,
and he goes to the story being this character that not only do you want to hear what kind of clever, quick kind of quips he's gonna make, but then his plans, like how he engineered the Battle of Blackwater and got no credit for it. You know, how he was able to weasel his way out of being sentenced to death. You know, the whole trial by combat thing, one of the greatest scenes in the history of television, in my opinion. Like, for this show to experience the highs that it did, and for it to end the way that it did, to me, it's just a travesty. Like, it honestly makes me sad. You know, and I kind of think that now House of the Dragon and the showrunners on that show are now like wanting to do things to make people forget about that ending. And
well, the books are finished, right?
So what?
The books are finished, right? On the House of
the
Dragon.
The House of the Dragon, Fire and Blood. That for this story in House of the Dragon, that story is finished. It's there's another Fire and Blood book left to come out.
Right, and that's going to cover that other 160 years, right? Because I know
Yeah,
Fire and Blood, like the House of the Dragon, is actually only like 2 chapters. From what we've seen so far, is only like 2 chapters of the book. So,
and by the way,
it's
the
still a
next
lot.
book is going to be just as crazy, if not even crazier,
I can't
than
wait.
the first book. So,
That's a good book.
yeah, man, it's just sad. Like there's no reason why it shouldn't go down as the best of all time. And
Right.
like you said, it won't, because the ending was just bad.
I have a question about the ending with I understand the Sansa being I guess now the Queen of the North. She would have been the Ward of the North. Now she's the Queen of the North. Whatever. It was funny that there's one. I think it's funny that Dorne never succeeded to was never defeated, and they never recognized the rule of the Iron Kingdom, but they still called it the rule of the 7 kingdoms. And Dorne wasn't part of that 7 kingdoms. Then as soon as the North decides, or Winterfell decides that they don't want to be part of the kingdom, they're like, of the 6 kingdoms. And I'm like, well, was that easy? Like, you're cool with just giving it up like that? Like, you've been saying 7 the whole time when it's 6, but now it's actually 5, and you're saying 6.
And the entire history of Dorne is their House Martell. Their slogan is unbowed, unbent, unbroken, meaning they don't surrender to anyone, even Targaryens with dragons. And now they're like, oh yeah, the North can be independent. It's cool. Why?
Yeah.
Dude,
and the Iron Islands.
Yeah. Oh.
Didn't they want their independence?
Yeah.
Well, that's what was that part of the agreement they made with Daenerys whenever all that stuff was going on.
Yeah, but she's dead though.
Yeah.
Pretty sure she wouldn't have held her word either. Based on the way things ended.
Look, I've been a fan of this for a long time, so I've seen all the theories, all the videos talking about this. And there was a moment when the writers knew that they were not going to have books to finish the show with. And apparently they went with George R.R. Martin in a hotel room, and George R.R. Martin kind of laid out to them the broad scope of how the story is going to end. So there are 3 things that we
There's going to be nipples and dudes made of ice.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Cody, didn't I just say this?
Well, yes, but okay. There's a few things that we know is going to be in the books, and then there's a bunch of other things that happen in the show that a lot of fans don't think is going to happen at all. The 3 of them that we know come from George, and that Dave and Dan called their oh shit moments because it made them go oh shit upon hearing them, is Hodor and everything that happened with Hodor. So that's a real thing. That's going to happen. Stannis and Melisandre burning Shireen alive at the stake. That's going to be something that happens in the book. And the far-flung one is Bran ultimately becoming king. Every other thing was a device written by the showrunners. So maybe Daenerys does go crazy, but you can also say, hey, maybe she doesn't either.
There's a theory why she went crazy. That Bran, he went back to Hodor and caused him to have that speech and everything like that. But he can also affect the present and the past. So he probably affected the Mad King to make him go burn everything. And also could have affected Daenerys by making her go mad. Yeah. That way he can sit on the Iron Throne.
I think the Daenerys plot, I mean, look, here's the thing. I can connect how it works. She was never threatened. She never once thought that she was in the wrong by making a claim to the throne. And the moment that she found out who, Aegon Targaryen was with Jon Snow, it literally shook her moral core. And I can gather that. I'm okay with it. I can stand behind it. I understand how it works. And it goes right back to the idea that the whole Game of Thrones pushes all of these people who have rational thoughts in the beginning into almost insanity to hold on to that power, because power is one of those things that the moment you get it, you don't want to release it. That's why I think that, Cersei's plot works in this whole entire show. Yes, at the end, I would have loved to seen her, flayed and entrails gone as long as the distance possible, but
Mhm.
at the same time, it is what it is.
Right.
I just didn't like the speed at which they made Daenerys flip. I didn't like how long it took her to go from
Yeah.
being Daenerys, going to the north, and then instantly finding out about Jon Snow Aegon to basically just laying waste and ruin to everything else.
Mhm.
Because all she had to do was kill him.
Yeah.
That would have solved her problem.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I think that if we ever get a future to this story, I don't think she's dead. They made a big point a number of times to talk about Jon Snow being stabbed in the heart and coming back to life from being stabbed in the heart, and it's just ironic that he stabs her in the heart at the very end, and then she's taken away by the dragon. We never know what happens to her.
The
So
sequel.
it's not like
TV show.
resurrections in this show is something is impossible. So I think that maybe that's something she comes back from being stabbed in the heart, maybe like Jon Snow
There's
does.
plenty of red priests left, so
Yeah.
And Cody, didn't you read the books? So I mean, can't Bran see the future and the past? So couldn't he seen all this happen?
Well, Bran goes into the past a lot, but when he gets the future, it's kind of like the Targaryen things. It's in dreams,
Okay.
you know, and it's even kind of hinted at in the show. You remember when it's like Greg's? I mean, not, I don't know why I say Greg. When Bran he like sees the shadow flying over King's Landing, and he sees the dragon shadow, and it's like a foreshadowing of that.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing. He doesn't really have any like looks into the
Okay.
future. Yeah, it was also a clever
Because
plot
he's-
device to show how
because
the.
he's.
Go ahead.
Oh, I said because he says, "Why do you think I came all this way?" When they asked him if he'd be king.
Yeah, and that's another thing. He's like an emotionless robot boy.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
like
hey,
the
like,
character.
hey, dude, like, you're literally doing nothing. You're sitting in the gods' wood time that the battle is going on. You can't like be a lookout, warg into some animals, and tell them like what's coming and shit. Like that was another character that just at the end had absolutely no personality. He's like
missed
this
opportunity.
mindless-
Him morphing into the dragon.
I was about to say. I
Yes!
was going
Ooh,
just about
yeah.
to say that.
Dude, that's what I thought they were building up to for like a couple seasons in a row. I thought that was inevitable.
I didn't even think about that, but that would have been a great idea.
Dude, that would have been insane.
Well,
That would
you
have
know,
been so cool.
it's funny where they left me off. Like, to be honest, like they're talking about a Jon Snow series, and like, okay, it'd be cool to hear about Jon Snow going to the wall, and he's probably going to go with the wildlings and some kind of story with that. I'd rather see the Arya story if we're going west of Westeros.
Right.
You
Because
know?
he's trying to unchart like
Going
you
to
know, the rest
America.
of the world. Yeah.
America.
But see, this is my problem with it though. Like, if Jon Snow is going to be after this, what's it based on? Like, is it just going to be something that they made up? Is it going to be like?
Yeah,
Or
I think
is
that's
it
how
gonna
they get
be-
away with it.
Yeah, but like, is it going to be?
gross.
I mean, George R.R. Martin has talked about it on his blog, so he knows it's a thing. I don't know if that means he's signed off on it, but even George being a part of it, like, yeah, it might not be up to your writer's integrity, but they're gonna offer you a fat check to say, hey, how about a Jon Snow show? So yeah, maybe he is gonna do it, and I'm just like, to me, there's no point to the Jon show or the Jon Snow show, even
Agreed.
though I do love that character. I love that character a little more than Greg
point.
does.
And
Well,
I think
maybe
Martin's
it's-
looking.
I learned to really like him towards the end. I didn't like him at
Yeah.
the beginning. I liked him more at the end. He's still not my favorite character, but I
Yeah.
liked him more at the end. But I'll tell you what.
Season 3 and 4 were his best seasons.
Yeah.
I
But
think
don't give me a
Martin's willing to. I think Martin's willing to take up anything to get away from finishing the books.
Maybe. Look, don't tell me a Jon Snow story. Tell me an Aegon the Conqueror story. Give me a Blood and Cheese live action. Give me a Duncan and Egg story live action. Give me the 160 years between House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. Like, give me all of that live action. I don't care how many time jumps you do or how many spans.
Just like anyone
There's
else.
So much good story to tell.
Yeah.
So much good story. Like I said, House of the Dragon is like from what we've seen, I think is like a chapter and a half of the book. Like from what we've seen, the Dance of the Dragon is like 3 chapters, but it's not until like chapter 21. Like there's like 21 chapters of stuff that happens that covers like a 30-year span or maybe a 60-year span before this.
Yeah.
Show me
Yeah.
that. And guess what?
Yeah.
Corliss Valerians and all of it. He's a bad motherfucker.
He's a bad
He's a
motherfucker.
bad
dude.
motherfucker.
That's a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
No,
like,
he's the man.
I think they said in the books he lived to be like 85, which is crazy. And you hear from him from like the time he's like 19. So
which one's he?
He's the sea snake.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cody, you talk about ruining a character. What about Varys?
Oh man.
Oh dude. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like how did
I thought
Varys...
he was going to be on that Iron Throne at the end. I was watching.
Dude, but like also that's another thing, right? You know how he's sending out like there's a scene where it shows Varys, like, okay, there's that point where Varys is like, hey, this bitch is crazy, she's gonna do some wild shit, and then like you see him sending out these letters. Dude, that's another plot point they just dropped. No one ever says what comes of that at all.
They showed him burn one of them too, so we don't know if he sent out letters or if he just burned the one that he had, because they did show him burn it too.
But
and
then
who's
why
he sending it out to?
I have no idea. No,
Who's
like I
he
said, that
sending
you're
it
right.
to?
No idea. And you know, like I hate the way that they ended him, man, because like I was kind of sad. He was one of my favorite characters, and it's like they made Tyrion be the guy who makes the decision to execute basically his best friend.
There's
for something that he was plotting with. Like
they
Tyrion was just as
videotaped-
much plotting it. Yeah.
They videotaped the table read, and the actor was not pleased either. He
I bet so.
he kind of like slams the script down. After
You
he
can
reads
find
the
so many. You can find so many clips of these actors, like in subsequent interviews, at like being asked questions about the ending, and they're trying their hardest to be like PC and be nice about it. But dude, they're just like, what? Like they're basically shitting all over it. Like Greg, or no, Ross. I think you mentioned last time how they're fighting the army of the dead, the White Walkers, and they're like, hey, yeah, let's go hide in the crypts. And there's a scene of Peter Dinklage. He's like, yeah, let's go hide in the crypts where all the dead people are. And it's like it visibly and just like it made no sense. It never made any sense. And I felt bad for the actors because they just kind of had to go along with it. Like, imagine you put almost a decade of your life into something. This show is a phenomenon. And then now it has to end in this type of, and it's like you're attached to that ending.
It's already tough that it's ending. That's the hard part for these people. You know, the fact that they know that they were in their last season or two, depending on, because they had a lot of coverage on season 7 also. But there is no easy way to look at it when you reach the end of a show, and everyone wants to know how they're going to go out. When you find out that you're going to go out like a punk, you know, like Viserys was one of those people that I didn't know how to feel about him throughout the whole entire show. But when he reached the end, like when his plot, I think the moment that he saved Tyrion was the moment that I flipped on him and was real on board with what his character was doing.
Right.
That made the difference to me. That's when I was like, you know, like he's up there, like he and Tyrion are the same, you know. And then when you see Littlefinger get, you know, slashed, you're like, thank God, like he's the one of the big three to go down, because it was literally Tyrion, Viserys, and Littlefinger who were making all these choices.
Mm-hmm.
So to see all this stuff happen, it was crazy. And when you have to sit there and go over the draft of your character's lines in that show before the show even happens, I mean, yeah, it's going to tear you apart, no matter what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned that the guy who played Varys, the table reading, like he was audibly mad about the way it ended, and like you can even look at him in the acting and tell like he looks. I mean, granted, he knows he's about to get killed in the scene, but he looks like pissed about the whole thing. It's like, wow. Now I think I mentioned it before, but Nathan had told me there's rumors about him being a Targaryen, and that's why he always shaves his head. Did
you mention that last week?
Yeah.
Or when you guys mentioned it last week?
Do you remember in season 2 when he's telling Tyrion? I believe it's Tyrion. If it's not, Tyrion, but he's telling Tyrion about what happened to him, and that when he was young, when he was over in Essos, you know, he doesn't have his balls, and Tyrion always makes fun of him, but he got his balls and dick cut off, and then the guy that did it to him he did this magic ritual thing, and he said that he heard things and saw things in the fire, like
We
a
never
lot,
know what
like
it was.
yeah,
Mhm.
like and he had no idea what it was, and like it sounds very similar to what Melisandre like sees in the flames when she's looking at it. But if he does have Targaryen blood, it would make sense why someone would be trying to use Varys in blood magic, especially because it's heavily implied that that's how dragons are created. Anyway, you have to have very specific pure bloodlines, and that's how the Targaryens made dragons with very dark magic and shit.
But why
But
would that to a Targaryen?
who?
Why would that happen to a Targaryen though?
Well, again, because like Targaryens with their bonds over dragons, like they essentially have magic blood. Like their blood, the blood of the dragon, it has more magical properties to it. And also, like there are storylines attached to this that are in the books that are not in the show, like the Black
Yeah.
Fires, right? Like so there's a whole nother, and you're gonna read about this in the next Fire and Blood. But also, Greg, now that you're done with the show, I'm gonna start sending you some kick-ass videos from this guy named Alt Shift X on YouTube. Dude, he has the best of Song of Ice and Fire content. And I want to send you one about the Blackfire rebellions and just how badass it is, to kind of give you an example of some of the stuff that's to come later on.
Okay.
Doesn't Catherine Stark come back to life in the books?
I was just gonna say in the books, yeah. Nathan was telling me she's not dead.
Yeah,
she is.
Yeah.
She's like another Jon Snow. So in the book, Beric Dondarrion, after the Red Wedding, so the guy that lights his sword on fire, he has the eye patch. He finds Catelyn Stark floating in a stream, and you originally see the body through Arya Stark's wolf. Because another thing that happens in the books is that all the Starks don't know it, but they all have the ability to warg into their direwolf. And it happens to Arya multiple times where she doesn't even know that it's happening to her. But Arya comes across her body in the water through the eyes of her direwolf. But then Beric Dondarrion finds her, and he gives his life to resurrect her. And she becomes this crazy character in the books. A lot of people preferred the show, actually, because part of the reason why people love this story is that when characters die, they stay dead, and it's very final. Outlaw Ned Stark, Robb Stark,
until the Night King comes around.
Yeah, right. But also, and if you're gonna resurrect Jon Snow, then it's like, well, okay, now you're doing it again. You've already shown that you did it once with Catelyn. Now you're gonna do it again. Yeah, there's a lot of big time changes, and the final one that I'll mention that I alluded to last time, Euron Greyjoy.
Oh yeah, I heard he's way different.
Night and day different from the book to the show. It's like not even funny.
I heard he's an asshole in the show, which we saw, but he's like the biggest asshole you'll ever think of or meet in the book, is what I heard.
He's sadistic,
which is crazy because he's a fucking asshole in the show.
Yeah, like he's an asshole. Like he's an asshole, but he has that like kind of drunken pirate kind of bravado. No, if you're around the Greyjoy, you're on Greyjoy from the book, you're like, oh, I'm in trouble right now. He has a boat called the Silence because all of the members of the boat, he cuts off their tongue so that way no one can answer, no one can talk back.
Well, he mentioned that in the show.
He
too,
mentioned
remember?
that in the show, yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about when he was talking to Yara. Was that her name? And he was like, "The reason I don't kill you is because you're the only entertainment I have. I'm a boat full of mutes." But that was the only thing he mentioned. So you didn't really get that just from the show. But yeah, I heard he's a badass.
One of my questions is like, what makes Daenerys special? Which I've been trying to figure out while rewatching the show, and that's like, why is she the unburnt? Why is she like the dragons? Like, look, as stupid as it sounds, the dragons like I can understand, but what makes her special? Where did she get the is she like the reincarnation of the god of light, or like, is there something else that like I've been missing in this whole entire thing? As someone who hasn't watched or read the books but watched the show, I don't quite understand where that comes from.
See, I always got it as all the Targaryens can't be burnt. That's why the dragon never breathed
And that's
fire on
not
Jon
true.
Snow at the end.
And see, that's another thing. In the books, even Targaryens can get really fucked up by fire. Like, people think that Targaryenism is to be flame retardant, and that isn't true.
Well, they burned what's his
but
name
one
at
of
the
the-
wall?
Who?
What's the maester's name? The Targaryen maester.
Oh, Aemon.
Yeah. So they burned him at the wall.
That's true.
Yeah,
and in the book
right.
too,
Yeah.
what's his name? Who's the king at the end of House of the Dragon? Is it Aegon?
Yeah,
it's Aegon, right?
Well,
And in the book,
I
yeah.
don't want to spoil it for Kev. I don't know if he's
Oh, he
if
left.
he's-
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
my
I'm
bad.
here.
My
Don't
bad.
spoil it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but no, you're right though. I know what you're talking about,
Yeah,
Greg, and yeah, there's absolutely fire involved in that death.
yeah.
So yeah, it's not, But going back to your question, Ross, one of the biggest theories and questions in the entire fandom is, who is Azor Ahai? And you hear them mentioned in the show, but like Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised, it's pretty much like the same thing. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's Jon Snow. But a lot of people are like, oh, well, no, actually, it's Daenerys, because of how she brings the dragons into the world, the fact that fire doesn't it doesn't affect her like that. So there
Yeah.
isn't a definitive answer, but my mindset is that I do think Daenerys and Jon Snow are going to come together in the book, and I do believe that the culmination of what they do together is going to be the Song of Ice and Fire, which
makes
is
sense.
both of them coming together. I kind of think that they're both the prince that was promised in that weird kind of sense.
Or maybe
But-
their kid is the prince that was promised.
I mean, one's from the south, one's from the north. It makes sense for both
Yeah.
of them. Ice and fire.
Also, didn't you think that they were gonna make Daenerys pregnant? Because it was this whole thing that she couldn't have kids anymore, right?
Yeah, and they kept saying, "Why? How do you know? They've been wrong before." Stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
and
right.
then-
I did think they were going to.
And remember when Jon Snow and Daenerys, they're going after it, they're getting busy, and Tyrion's outside the door, kind of ominously looking, oh,
He's
what's-
cucking out.
Yeah,
Dude, it's like,
What was he was talking about? Was it his nephew, the one that was killing the bugs? Just
yeah. Dude, that was funny.
Yeah, I thought they were going to build up for her being pregnant too, because him rejecting her because it's his aunt. And I thought she was going to come out and say, "Well, I'm pregnant now, so you're going to allow your kid to be a bastard like you were growing up." And I thought that was going to be that whole dilemma, but no.
yeah. Damn it! I had a point I to bring up. That's why I always should write these down whenever I think of them, because there's always so much conversation I forget about it. I make good points.
Yeah.
Like, damn it. Something
Unsullied?
something about Targaryen though, but I can't remember what it was.
Oh, I also thought it was really stupid that at the end, even though Jon Snow kills Daenerys, it's like, oh, we're gonna send Jon Snow
To the
up
wall.
to the wall, and then the Unsullied are like, yeah, okay, fine, and Grey Worm is just okay with it,
but didn't they
all right,
leave?
whatever.
Well, first they had to elect the new king first. Remember?
And the
Yeah.
prisoner
okay.
got to help that out.
Yeah, the prisoner was the one who orchestrated the whole thing.
And shouldn't Drogon have fucked Jon Snow up?
That's what I'm thinking. But Jon Snow's Targaryen too.
Yeah, but
You know,
and then a lot of
That's his
people are
mom.
like, right, and then a lot of people are like, oh, in the Jon Snow show, maybe they're gonna have Jon go and find Drogon and ride the. It's like,
Well,
dude,
see,
I don't.
That's why I thought all the Targaryens were fireproof, because it looked like he was wanting to breathe fire on them, but he couldn't. So he breathed it on the fucking throne.
Nah, it's just stupid.
No, it's just stupid. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I never thought of it. That's putting some thought into it, but yeah, I don't think that's what it was either. Dang it, what was it about
well,
Jon Snow?
I got a question. I'll ask a question about not only Jon Snow but the North. So I've been led to believe through the show that there is a correlation between the White Walkers, the Night King, and like winter. Like it seems to be that their strength brings on a stronger season, more or less.
Yes.
And so now that they're absent from the world, is everything north of the wall going to start like thawing out? I mean, essentially, because it's never seemed like in
All
the
the children
seven
are dead,
realms, the children of the
they're all dead,
forest
right?
or whatever.
Yeah, children of forest.
I don't know.
know.
Well, they never led that court. They never made that immediate harshness of a statement in the show. It definitely seemed like the one that was possibly the oldest, much less the leader, Leaf, I think was her name.
Yeah.
I
thought she was like the last one.
Even that I don't know.
Yeah,
just from the show. But what, like geographically speaking, as you have the wall all the way to Dorne, it doesn't seem like it seems like the weather keeps getting better the farther south you go. It doesn't keep it doesn't polarize like our Earth does. So whereas Dorne could possibly be colder because it's further south, I don't know where the equator is in that whole equation. But if the North can like thaw out with the absence of the White Walkers and actually become decent land for all these people to live on, like in my mind, that's where they would start to tell. Not start to tell, but that would be a big part of a Jon Snow TV show, which, to the best of my knowledge, is moving forward, and that show is happening.
Are they recasting Jon Snow? Do you know?
No,
I don't think so. No.
Kit Harington is one of the major reasons why this show
He's
is
EPing
happening.
it, I think.
Okay, I think you mess up if you do that. To be honest with you.
Me too.
But with that comes the other side of the argument is like. Knowing what I know about this world, like, is global warming a thing? Like, is Dorne going to be like the hottest place on Earth to live? Period. Because like it's no longer an issue. So it's weird. Only I try to make sense of the universe that's fake and fantasy, but
no, you're not wrong. In the books and in the show, it's generally correlated that the presence of the White Walkers lead to the long night, the long winter. And this is part of the reasons why the Starks in this story technically are just as important as the Targaryens, because winter is coming. Yes, it's the words not just for, hey, the winters are going to get here and they're long and harsh and you need to prepare, but also this incredible threat lives in the north, and us as the Starks after the Night's Watch, we are truly the protectors and the watchers of the north, and we remain vigilant about this because we've been through it before. That's why their castle is called Winterfell, because that's where winter fell. That's where ostensibly the first White Walkers, that's where they were defeated. Because old Nan, she tells stories in the books about giant ice spiders like crawling around everywhere, and undead giants and mammoths and all kinds of crazy evil shit. And it's that the Starks are a part of what keeps the North protected. So again, like going back to the Song of Ice and Fire, if the Targaryens have these prophetic dreams that Targaryens must sit on the Iron Throne to protect against the White Walkers, then so too there must always be a Stark in Winterfell, because they go hand in hand with one another. It's the Ice and Fire theme to the entire series. So no, I don't know what they do, Ross. Like, I mean, theoretically, you're right. Maybe it shouldn't be so cold up in the north anymore, but I kind of think that's too much of the aesthetic of Jon Snow and the North for them to like change that now. You know what I mean?
And not only that,
they're in the north. There's no snow.
Yeah, right.
your mention of Targaryen being on the throne and Stark being in Winterfell. Like those two things also. Now, is that a big thing for the whole Rhaegar situation? When he married Lyanna, like, was that? Did he just fall in love, or was that something that was a part of the Targaryen vision of some sort?
So
Because
Ross, I'm smiling because now you're getting into like literally the $1 million questions that fans of this entire series have had since like 1997. You know,
I
like
haven't been able to ask the questions to anyone. Like I've
I
always
know,
kept
yeah.
all this so silent.
Dude, I wish that I can give you an answer. Like Rhaegar as a character becomes obsessed with prophecy. And no one really knows why, but just at a certain point in his life, something happens to him, or he reads something, or he has a Targaryen dream, or something, and he goes, "It appears as though I must become a warrior." So he has this dream or vision or reads something where he's like, "I know that my life has to change," and he has this, prophecy where the dragon has 3 heads, and if you notice, the Targaryen sigil is a dragon with 3 heads, and that's for a purpose. That's why a lot of people think that the original Aegon the Conqueror was heavily involved with prophecy, because the entire thing, from the beginning to the end, is like this prophetic mission statement that they've all been embarked on. And there's a certain king that's coming up in the next Fire and Blood book. His name is Baelor the Blessed. And without giving too much away, this guy becomes a fanatic of the faith of the Seven, and he's like a religious zealot, and he burns all these ancient Valyrian and Targaryen books. So a lot of the prophetic stuff that Targaryens have been keeping track of, Baelor kind of burns it and gets rid of all that shit, like on some old biblical book burning type stuff. Like that's what he does. So a lot of that information is lost to time, and it makes you believe that Rhaegar somehow, some way, uncovers some of that knowledge.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and so everything from him being with Lyanna, what reasons he had for it, like, was it just to make Jon Snow? Was he really in love? Did he know that it was some kind of binding pact between the Targaryens and the Starks? No one really knows. Like, these are some of the biggest questions that the fandom still have about Rhaegar as a character, you know?
If you say
It's
he's
called
that's obsessed with prophecy, it makes sense that he would go marry Stark.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah. And he
What
thought that
happened was he got drunk one night, and it just happened that way.
Yeah. And now there's even kind of a theory that the Starks also have a prophetic thing, because like they too know that the White Walkers are going to come back at some point in time. And in the next season of House of the Dragon, it might show this pact of ice and fire that might happen between
Craig and Stark.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about Henry Cavill playing.
Yeah, well, there's a lot that goes on to that too, even down to the original. Remember in the book, Greg, where Aegon Targaryen goes to the north after they had wiped out all the southern kingdoms? Torrhen Stark decided to kneel to Aegon the Conqueror instead of choosing to fight, and they call him the king who knelt. And a lot of people think that maybe he decided to do that because he also knew that these Targaryens are a fulfillment of the prophecy that would lead to the defeating of the White Walkers. Yeah, so that shows you how far this prophetic stuff like goes back, you know.
Yeah, man, it's the same thing Jon Snow did too, all the way down to it. He knelt for defeating the White Walkers. Yeah, it does amaze me with how much I've already taken with this, or taken in with this universe, how the ending of the show was. it doesn't ruin it for me because I still have so much to read and learn about the show. My wife started watching House of the Dragon almost immediately after the finale was over, season finale was over series finale was over because she had to cleanse her palate. And then like I came back later and she was already on episode like 7. So I know she really likes.
I wish the
House of
rest of
Dragons.
us could have that.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I can't imagine. Like I've been watching this. I watched it for like 3.5 weeks, and it ripped my heart out when I saw these last episodes. I cannot imagine going as long as y'all did, and then getting that. Like it just would make it that much worse. Like wasted 10 years of my life. It almost felt like, but not really. Like I said, it doesn't ruin the show, but it would feel like that almost immediately. You know.
Hey, look, I'll tell you. But this being one the first rewatch of the entire show since the show ended, I got a lot more out of the later episodes than I thought that I would have. Not like season 7 and season 8 are kind of questionable, but I was able to take it knowing how it ended. I was able to take those last 2 seasons and really kind of like pick them apart, like dissect them for the parts that they needed to be dissected for. But I really like this show. Now I can say up till season 6 is a real good moment. I think that season 6 was a moment to where I got enough out of the storyline to still enjoy it. 7 and 8 is when it started to get really rocky. And as I said, I can pull what I need to out of them. But I like 4 is a damn good cutoff. But 5 comes out still pretty strong. And season 6 still jumps tracks to a different style story. Right. Without leaving too much of it in the dust. 7 and 8 are when things get rocky.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, 7 and 8 are when things get rocky. But I really don't even start to really dislike it until episode 4 of season 8. Like even up to that point, it's like, well, I'm not liking this as much as I was, but it's not. They haven't ruined it. And that's why I was like, man, I've only got 3 episodes left. There's no way that it's going to be ruined for me now. Nope, I was wrong. Well, not ruined, like I said, but not as mad as I thought. I didn't.
That's why I couldn't open my mouth when you said you didn't watch those last few episodes. I'm like, I can't say anything because you have to experience it yourself.
Yeah.
And when you said you predicted Jon Snow and Daenerys on the Iron Throne, I try to keep a poker face.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was after Daenerys burned everything down. I was like, well, they've really taken it off the rails here. I don't know.
They jumped the shark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I said, Ashley looked at me and she was like, "What the hell is going on? Like, is just everybody just going to die?" And it's kind of, honestly, it's kind of the way I felt in the battle, the White Walkers, the Long Night. I was like, so they're just going to kill everybody? Like, it's what it seems like they're doing. And that's why you can't look at that battle as linear. It has to be taking sections out.
Been the ongoing joke of the show.
Yeah.
The moment, like, you start this show off with death, you end season 1. You don't even end season 1. Ned Stark dies in like episode, what is it, 8, 7? 7?
Well, the second to last episode. Yeah.
Yeah,
9.
like,
That's 9. That's the first big 9
what
episode.
the hell? Yeah. And it's always been any character that you like, you just put a counter on that sucker because it's a countdown.
Yeah.
And that's true. Look, Jon Snow died and they brought him back, but he still died.
Yeah.
They still took him from you. When they left, because that happened at the end of
5.
5?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
So, yeah, because when they reopened 6, and that's why I think 6 still kind of works. Because, like, that was a moment in, like, TV watching history. Like, when they killed him at the end of it, I look, each of these moments, the Red Wedding, I call it that, but whatever the name of the episode is. But then you turn around, Jon Snow dies. You know, you lose all these characters. You lose everything. When you get to the very end and you're given that spoon-fed shit ending that you get, you're just like, I endured all of this.
And nobody wanted Bran on the throne
to get here. Yeah. Not to mention dead Bran. I mean, like, he's useless.
Yeah, it was an interesting call putting him on the
robot Bran.
Yeah, but apparently that, like you said, that was one of the things that George said was going to happen. So
I think that's what he was aiming for, and I think because they took so much liberties with the books, with magic and everything, I think that has a lot to play with how it ends in the books.
Dude, I wouldn't be
Maybe.
surprised if George was just like, okay, I know I said this is how it's going to end in the book, but fuck it, dude. I'm just going to do it my way and do it way
Yep.
better. Like, in fact,
I think he
hope
has
they,
to sell the
yeah, I
book.
hope that he does do that. And by the way, even if Daenerys does go complete, authoritarian and just burn the city and Bran becomes king, I have no doubt that it will at least make sense.
Right.
That you will
Yes.
at least be like, oh, okay, this is clearly why this happened. And yeah, I think that's safe to assume.
I actually, oddly enough, was listening to the Woody Wilcox show the other day, and they were playing a game, and George R. R. Martin was one of the answers for the game. Where they played an audio clip of him, and in the actual audio clip, it's the clip of him speaking about that, where he's like, "The books are going to be different. Some people don't like the way the directors ended the television show, but the books are going to be different." And I was like, okay, well, that's him saying it right there. So
Yeah.
You can say it all
So
day
that-
long until that pen is
until
on
it's written.
paper. That's
Yeah,
just
until
no
I see it.
notion.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right.
Oh, and the last thing I did want to mention, I could have mentioned it last Friday, but I forgot. Dude, there was such a stupid decision they made with Sansa. Remember when Peter Baelish brings her to the Vale, and it's like, okay, this is a much more mature Sansa. She's been in King's Landing. She's been drug around
Yeah,
by
exactly what I was about to
Joffrey
say.
and Cersei and all this crazy shit. And then there's that moment where she comes down the steps walking all cool in like her Darth Vader dress, looking all sexy and shit.
Dark ass hair.
And it gives you a moment that's like, oh, now Sansa, instead of being a pawn in the Game of Thrones, now she's going to go to be a player in Game of Thrones. Much like what happened with Alicent Hightower in House of the Dragon.
right.
Well, then they go into the plot line where Peter Baelish just marries her off to Ramsay. She gets beaten, sexually assaulted, all this other shit. It brings her character right back into the realm that she was already in, of being this helpless little victim girl that is at the behest of her captors. And it's that she just backslides back into nothingness.
Yeah.
And it's so dumb. And by the way, again, like I know you're going to eventually get to it, Greg. It's not major spoilers, but that isn't Sansa in the books that gets married off to what's his name? Crazy
Ramsay?
boy.
Ramsay.
Right, yeah, Ramsay. It's a girl by the name of Jane Poole, who is being disguised as Arya. Everyone thinks that Jane Poole is Arya, and Ramsay Bolton thinks that he has married Arya Stark, but it's not Arya Stark.
So when does the books end? And like towards the show, like
Dude, no, yeah, right.
Season 5, right?
So Kevin, the final scene that you see in the book is the Night's Watch killing Jon Snow.
Yeah.
oh shit.
That was the final scene of A Dance with Dragons.
Tough place to leave it off on, let me tell you.
Dude,
But-
and it's been since 2011. That's when that book 2011 or 12
11.
that book came
I
out.
remember
We're not
that's-
we're not getting the rest of those books. It's just not
Oh,
happening.
don't say that. I'm hoping.
All right. All I can say is until the day comes where we can dissect this whole entire thing, like episode to episode, season to
Yeah.
season. What? I know that this is going to be an impossible question, but like, what's your closing argument? What's your takeaway? What's your thing from Game of Thrones? And I'll start because Game of Thrones, I never read the books. It was a thing for me that I watched with many different people. I introduced countless people to Game of Thrones. I didn't jump on board until at least season 2. I think I know that I didn't watch the first one when it was going on live. I said before, I rewatched every single episode or season from that point on by rewatching all of the episodes prior to that. So like I literally watched this show countless times, just cumulatively,
Building
adding
back
more
up with the new
on
stuff.
each
Yeah.
time. And you know, we've talked about favorite characters, we talked about tons of plot lines, we talked about all sorts of stuff, but like my biggest takeaways it was a show that was fantastic. Like it pulled something from. It pulled a great story together that brought millions of people together. You know, when House of the Dragon came out, there was that clip. You know, I don't remember which one you sent it to us, but it was that scene in
The
the apartment
windows?
where everyone's watching the same thing.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
all the lights moving at the same exact time.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what this did for, you know, like the population, like people watching
Yeah.
this show. It was something that everyone could get behind. It wasn't that big of a deal. And it wasn't until like House of the Dragon came out that people started saying things like, you know, like race or this doesn't work or that doesn't work. But regardless of the end of the show itself changed television as much as, I don't know, like, this is what I love about HBO shows. Like Sopranos changed television. The Wire changed television. All these storytelling motifs and the way that they did these things were massive for television. And it's a large part of why I like the series long form storytelling on television shows.
Right.
The longest form of storytelling really is books, because they can do so much more, and they tell a story over generations, and they hold true. They rarely change. But to make something visually, Game of Thrones was fantastic. And I can't say that it's like at the top of my list, but it will forever be mentioned in like my favorite television shows.
Yeah.
So
that's
a big thing for me.
To me, it's the best fantasy story ever told. Like I love it, dude. Like I as someone who grew up loving fantasy stories and comic books, like this is one of the most important stories in my life. And one of the things that I took away from it that I will take into every, you know, story that I'm into, one of the things that I look for, and I didn't even know that I was this way until Game of Thrones kind of pointed it out to me. I don't like one main character. I don't like one story about one person, because ultimately, yeah, this person is going to go through ups and downs and all kinds of crazy shit, but you're meant to identify with the main character. And instead of having one main character that everyone is supposed to identify with, I love a cast of characters that, like, oh, okay, like Jon Snow, I see myself as Jon Snow, whereas you might see yourself as Jaime Lannister or Tyrion or Brienne or Daenerys or Arya. It's like you have all these different characters that you can kind of live through for different reasons and stuff like that. And to me, those are the best stories, when you have just a cast of characters that you just can't forget about. And that's what Game of Thrones really showed me. Just having a diverse cast where you cannot tell the story without each and every one of them. They wanted to make this into a movie way before it was ever made into a show. But George R.R. Martin kept on turning them down because they were like, okay, here's one where Jon Snow is the main character of the movie. Or here's one where Daenerys is the main character. And George was like, no, this is not my story. It's not going to be the vision that I want to tell if you do it that way.
I'm glad he did.
Well said.
That's you, Kev.
To me, Game of Thrones will always be, like, at its peak, the greatest show ever.
Same.
Like, at its very, very best, to me, is the greatest show ever. I haven't watched it since the ending until at the end of House of Dragons. I decided to do a rewatch. The ending is still pretty bad, but I feel less of a sting when I watch it again. I think the show can be a lesson to any other people who decides to pick up a book and make it into a series, to make sure that the book series actually ends, that you know how to finish this thing.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, to me, at the peak, it's still the greatest show ever.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I will wrap it up with this. Its highs are some of the best highs I've ever seen on television, like hands down. Its lows are pretty bad, some of the worst, but there are not many lows. There really aren't. Like this is literally one of the shows where almost everything about this is fantastic. It's really just kind of the ending. But that being said, one of the best shows I've ever seen. It's one of the best fantasy universes I've ever got myself involved in. I know, Cody, when this came out, I'd seen Rings of Power, and I agree with CK, and I said Tolkien over Martin. And I said that I may change that opinion, but it's because I know a ton of, like, not a ton, but a lot more Tolkien stuff than I do Martin, like Lord of the Rings than I do Game of Thrones. Now that I'm into Game of Thrones, I like this better than the Lord of the Rings universe. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is still one of my favorite trilogies movie wise, but as far as universe goes, I'd rather learn or read about more Game of Thrones stuff. It still doesn't beat out the Star Wars universe for me because that one's been near and dear to me since I was just a wee little lad. But it's really good, and I want to learn more about it. I want to get more into the books. I've gotten most of the books already. I've just only read through a few of them, but I'm really, really glad that I got to experience this. There's not a lot of shows nowadays, since we have so much content we take in, there's not a lot of shows or movies that can legitimately keep you on the edge of your seat and get you so involved in a character that you are actually upset or thrilled about what happens. Like when certain things happen, like the night after I watched The Red Wedding, I couldn't sleep that night for a little while just thinking about it. And it's one of those things where all day long the next day, all I'm doing is thinking about this and this and this. And it's just like, that's good writing. And I'm really happy that I finally joined this universe, and I've got so much more to learn because there's so much more out there.
Yeah, I'm happy for you, man. I'm ready to start. So now we're at that point where I'm gonna start sending you cool videos about like theories and the artwork and stuff. But also, I'm excited because now you get to embark on all the other stuff that you don't know. Like I can't wait till we can talk about Dunk and Egg. Because Dunk and Egg is one of the best stories in this entire universe. It's so good.
I also say, if I had to put one word to this, like Game of Thrones, I would say nuance. Like, I never thought I would love Jaime Lannister at the end.
True.
You can see the good and bad and evil within all, pretty much everything.
Yes. I went from point to Cody's character comments. He mentioned a whole lot about seeing yourself in many different characters, but not only that, seeing the evolution in characters. And when you start getting older in life, and you can like start seeing your own evolution and how you changed, that really shines a light on the storytelling they do through these characters.
Yeah. To be able to watch characters like Bran and Arya from when they were the show first started, young kids, to being damn near adults. Shoot, they almost showed Arya naked, and I was like, "Is she old enough to be on screen naked?" I was like, "I don't know about this. I don't know how I feel about this."
Yep.
But yeah, amazing.
Passionate, man. Passion's one of my words that I use when we start talking about things that you really start caring about, because the things in life that you're passionate about really change everything. And this show brought a whole different level of passionate storytelling. And I appreciate that. It was really in depth. It really reached a whole lot of people on various levels. But, here we are, even though House of Dragon has come out, we're years after still talking about this. And I know we're not that far removed from it, but you got to think about, this show took up a better part of a decade telling a story.
Yeah.
So that's a long time for a story.
It is.
Yeah, man.
Well, fellas, I appreciate y'all pushing me on, or making me get on this ride and talking to me about it and enjoying this show. But it is getting late now. Let's go ahead and start to wrap up our Game of Thrones talk. We may come back one day when news is slow and maybe just do season by season coverage of this stuff, or hopefully new stuff coming out will be fun too. Even though we got a while before House of the Dragon comes out, a long time.
And I want to get into reading the books too. I haven't read any of them.
Fire and Blood's really good. Like really, I liked Fire and Blood better than I'm liking the first book of Game of Thrones so far.
Gotcha.
But maybe I don't know what it is, but I'm still liking the first book of Game of Thrones, but I like Fire and Blood a whole lot better.
Maybe because it's like the beginning.
Yeah, and there's a lot covered. I mean, I think Fire and Blood covers what I said, like almost 80 years.
Yeah, 80 years. But also, you watch the show too, so when you're watching Fire and Blood, all that's new. You know, so like one of them reads like a history book, and one of them is a novel.
That's a
And
good point. That's a really, really good point. Fire and Blood is kind of like a history book, and I love how even in the book they're like, they give you a bunch of different options. Some say it was this, and they tell you a story. Some say it was this. Some say it was this. The truth may never know. We may never know. I'm like, oh, I like that.
Kev, I would recommend. I mean, honestly, Greg probably did it the best way. Like, I would go through Fire and Blood first, just because you can finish that entire book, right? Whereas if you start book one, which is fine, it's not a bad decision, but you still got all these other books to get through.
Yeah.
Whereas you can crush Fire and Blood in like a short amount of time, and then you can embark on the main series.
Would Fire and Blood spoil season 2 for me?
Yes.
I might wait on that.
But dude, no, but like, okay.
I can't wait to see it. It makes me more excited to see it.
No, and this is what I was telling. But dude,
I don't think you can spoil yourself on this stuff.
Yes, perfect point. This is what I was telling Greg too, and this is why I recommended that he read it, because even when you read the events of the book, the show is way different, and it has this cool thing going on that I've never seen happen in like a show or a movie before, where you can say that the show is more canonical than even the book is, because the book is written from the point of view of the Maesters, and the Maesters are very, very biased. And there's also a Grand Maester conspiracy that says that the Maesters are at the center of the death of dragons and magic. So if you take that into consideration and realize that the Maesters are the ones that wrote this history book, and they even tell you in the book history through basically 3 different accounts of who saw what during the time when it was going on. So the book, even though it will spoil the main beats of the story, it's not actually going to ruin how things actually transpire in the show. So to me, I would recommend it.
The way you said, though, the Maesters have bias, that kind of makes me wonder if it will spoil the ending. Like, who wins on top?
Dude, you're talking like it's like history being written by by religion in the world that we live in.
They basically want to know who wins the Dance of the Dragon. It definitely will. It definitely will.
That's how I feel like the way the Maesters tell it would give it away.
So if you don't want to spoil House of the Dragon, then start with the first book,
Fire and Blood.
A Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Either way, the books are fantastic. I highly recommend checking them out. Of course, I'm not actually reading the books; I'm listening to audiobooks. But either way, it's a form of taking in the media.
Yeah, I'm doing. That's what I'm doing, man.
Yeah, it's so much more fun that way. Right. We could talk Game of Thrones all night. I know we could. We talked about DC news for like an hour and a half, so I know we could definitely talk Game of Thrones forever. But let's go ahead and get it wrapped up because it is 12:30, and I got my last day of work tomorrow for a little while. So,
I gotta work.
Where can I find you at, buddy? They want to get a hold of you.
You can find me on Twitter, I guess. White Chocolate Espresso. I made up a dumb name, and I like it.
Easy to remember. Love it. Cody, what about you, man?
Considering everybody calls you that now, it's not that dumb.
Yeah.
I thought the
Bat
Daddy
moniker,
when I first started.
Get a moniker.
I used to have my name, and I was like, maybe I should not have my name on the internet. My full blown name.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, if that's true, I'm fucked. my name is plastered everywhere, dude.
Making your mark. Where can they find you at, man?
You can find me every day of the week on the C3 Panthers podcast, making content, trying to take advantage of this crazy time of meaningful Panther football in the month of December. And you can find me bitching about something on Twitter at CodyLac, CODYLAC. Holla at your boy.
Hells yeah. Ross?
Lurking everywhere, but you can't find me anywhere.
That's right.
Dude, Ross has it the right way. Ross is doing things.
He really does.
He's doing things correct.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, the only form of social media I do is Twitter, and it's just mainly for the shows. To be honest, Matt, shows.
I see you all, but y'all can't see me. I
I
know what you're doing.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, you can find me at the Bat Daddy 52 on Twitter is my personal handle. Come check out at GCS Podcast 1 is the show handle. We go live every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Audio drops sometime between then and Monday
Not next
or
Friday.
Tuesday. Yeah, just whenever. Correct. Not next Friday. Next Friday is close to Christmas. We're taking a break. I'm having a surgery. I'll be down. You know, I don't know how I'm gonna be feeling. I may feel loopy and like watch some crazy old movie like Jingle All the Way and get on. I want to talk about like for my
Great movie.
We may have to do
It's
an
a great movie.
Avatar,
The
an
Turbo
Avatar
Bond.
grouping.
An Avatar grouping would
watch
be,
it.
yeah, that would be fun too. Yeah, so there may be something out there. Like I said, I don't know exactly how bad I'm feeling, but I mean, either way, we're gonna take next Friday off. But we will be back following that to do the last show of 2022, where we're gonna cover the Willow and Doom Patrol that we've missed for the last 2 weeks, and then we're also gonna go with like an interview review, the best shows we've loved all year, favorite movies, least favorite stuff, all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be a really good time. But that's the longest outro ever. I appreciate everybody coming tonight. The chat room was awesome tonight. I really appreciate everybody in here. Dan Floyd, Tin Tizzy, Mike Hollinger, just Panther Pickle, Panda. We got a ton of people. It was really fun. And
12 likes.
Yeah.
12 likes.
Hey, that's big numbers for this show. Let me tell you. Either way, come check us out. Be part of the show. It's a fun time. But we're going to go ahead and get out of here. And until 2 weeks from now, keep pounding.